Hello, Mechwarriors, and welcome to the Mechbay, where we fix your mech and fix your game. What's going on, Mechwarriors? I'm your host, Josh. I've got my co-host, Lord Master Denham.
Howdy, howdy.
And 0-2 Crabback Combatant Steve.
Oh.
Yeah, we're a hunchback family, at least because you keep dragging the crabs down. And we are the Mechbay Podcast, your number one source for all things casual to competitive tabletop battletech. Today, we are recapping my time at our local Triangle Classic tournament, and then we will wrap the show up with some common Alpha Strike list types that you might see out in the world. But first, as always, we've got some hobby news, hobby progress, hobby games played, and some fan mail. Okay, so starting off with news, we've got some new releases coming out later this month. We'll work our way back to like today. Coming out on October 30th, the Technical Blueprint posters will be coming out to general sale. Those are the ones that we talked about that were at Gen Con, and now they'll be on the Catalyst store website for everyone to put up posters on their dorm room walls.
I'm excited. I have a wall in my office just for blueprints. I have Battletech and Star Wars, and some of these I do not have. I am definitely picking up a set of these.
I'm curious which ones you're missing.
I might have some of I don't have the Battlemaster one or the Phoenix Hawk. I've got like the original 4-clan Omnimex, the Vulture, Thor, Timberwolf, and that other one, Loki.
You used the Inner Sphere names. That makes me very sad.
Yeah, well, that's how we learned them when they came out. Yeah, we didn't learn the clan names until way later, because I read books. That's how I learned.
Readings for
but yeah, so I don't
have.
have the Inner Sphere one. So like the Locust, the Phoenix Hawk, the Battlemaster, whichever ones. I don't know if those are in the technical blueprint print packs, but I think they are. But I'm excited either way to have new ones that aren't decades old.
All right, we've got a Force Manual Karita will be the end of October. Force Manual. Apparently, they were able to get this out of the printers and out of like the holding cell that it was originally going to be closer to next year. And
I got to hold one in my hand this weekend.
Really?
Yeah, Hansa had one from Gen Con because they were selling them at Gen Con.
Hate that man. Hate him.
Yeah. It's a nice book. I like it. I can't wait to get one of my very own.
We've got the revised support deck, so Battlefield support, the revised for the new Mercenary Kickstarter points and stuff.
Right, and that's the one that comes in the Mercenaries box set, right? This is just a separate standalone version of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we have the Field Commander's case, which is what we saw at Kerensky Con, but was not the right size, so it had to go back to get redone. I think they had a few of these at Gen Con for sale, and now I guess they got all the shipping and sizing issues done, and it's out for general sale.
Did you get to take a look at Hans's one of those? Because he brought that too. Yep. It's nice. It's very nice.
Now that's the one that has space for mechs and your books as well, right?
Space, mechs, books, dice, everything you need for a tournament like this. It was perfect. He just brought all of his stuff, and it was all in one nice, neat little case, and he didn't have a bunch of other things hanging around.
How many mechs can you fit in the case?
Like a dozen.
Okay. All right. That's not bad.
Yeah. You don't want to bring your whole army. You just want to bring the mechs you're going to be playing in a tournament, or enough for two people for And I say a dozen. I don't know. It could be a little bit more, but it's not like 20 or 30. It's like a dozen.
I just wasn't sure. You couldn't see from the photographs; they weren't that detailed. But I didn't know if there was like an extra layer underneath that you could fit like a, one whole flat of mechs and then books on top, or how it was laid out inside.
No, there's just one layer for mechs, but there's multiple spots. So if you've got like big hefty mechs, you put them in a different spot than the normal size mechs.
Yeah, and it's got a like digital camo, like gray.
Yeah, the city
color.
digital city camo. I like it. It's got Velcro bars on it, so if you've got your Velcro back patches, they're ready to go.
Nice, very nice. Yeah, so all of those should be coming out October 30th. I'm going to say pretty much end of the month, next month. So, all right. We do have an update to the Master Unit List 2.0 the new mall, as it's been, colloquially called in the BattleTech circles. Unfortunately, this will be delayed due to one of the developers, unfortunately, passing away and another one being affected by Hurricane Helena. So, yeah, so that will be delayed for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. So,
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, there's nothing really you can say about that. Like it was out of everyone's hands, and then a natural disaster. So it's just how the world works, unfortunately. So our condolences out for both of those families. On a brighter note, Catalyst did get this week released the Force Manual Davian.
Yes, which I also got my hands on to take a look at. It is also nice.
It's also
it's Davian and not awesome Karita, but yeah, it looks beautiful. I love what they've done with it. I cannot wait to have my very own either.
Yeah, the digital only one on the Catalyst site is only $15, and I'm like, I was thinking about waiting for a physical copy, but I might just pick up the digital because let's get real, I'm going to put it on my phone and read it at work. So, like.
Yeah, no, I have a bookshelf. Obviously, I'm going to read it digitally, but I want that physical copy because I like to touch my books.
That sounds terrible, Denim.
Well, too bad. I regret nothing.
The BattleTech universe is also out on the website in the digital forms.
Okay. I haven't looked at that yet.
That's essentially let's get a recap of the entire universe from inception to today. So
I have heard it's beautiful.
Yeah. I think what I've heard from all the developers and everyone they've talked to is like, this was the baby, like the project that had to go perfectly. So a lot of work and a lot of hands and a lot of love went into this. And I know, that was you could get this in like the super edition, like the one that opens and lights up, right, Denim?
All right, so here's the thing. I did not buy that version.
I remember you not buying it.
I'm getting a version. Yeah, I'm getting one from the Kickstarter, but not the ultra, like the one that you open up and hear Bitch and Betty talk to you every time you open it up. I'm not getting that one. It looked awesome. It was just so expensive for something that I knew I wouldn't be opening that much. So I couldn't bring myself to do it. We will see later if I regret that decision. But as far as now, my Kickstarter will come with the regular version.
There you go.
I see nothing wrong with the Ultimate Edition, and I'd love to have one. I just couldn't justify it at the time.
At that point, you might as well just roll the dice for you, right?
Yeah. I can't do any worse than I do.
We do have some paint stuff that came out. The BattleTech Mercenaries Army Painter paint set is available online now. So
yes,
these are the Fnatic paints.
I believe so.
They are. That 100%.
Okay, I was like,
we had one for the prize giveaway at the tournament too. So and I got to read over that whole thing.
They look nice.
Yeah.
No, not
the big one.
Okay, nope. That's why.
No, there's two different paint sets that we gave away. One gigantic one, and then one was this Mercenaries Army Painter set.
Okay. These are the good ones, are the note. Thank you. And they also have I thought they had this previously, but the paint starter set is online. So if not, I'll just cut that. So. And then, Steve, you had a update for Crabback?
Sure, Crabback 2024. We have been raising money for the Children's Miracle Network since, I believe, when we dropped the last episode, which was late September. In the span of a week and a half, maybe, we have managed to successfully raise over $1,200 for the Children's Miracle Network in a little less than a week. We are fast approaching our original goal of $1,500. I want to thank everyone that has already donated and those that may be doing so after hearing this. Really blown away by everyone's generosity and how excited everyone seems to be. I've got people asking for t-shirts, but we're looking into it. But no, I will also just, since you took that shot at me as we started the episode, I will have you know that the Crab Rangoons were the first team to raise $750, our stated goal today. Carbon's Hunchbacks are still struggling to catch up, But want to thank everybody again who's thrown money at the project, and it's great to really see the BattleTech community come together and raise money for a good cause. So thank you everyone for that.
I'm super excited about this. And this is you're playing this in Alpha Strike, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I could give my opinions. That's a mistake. The Crab Classic,
yeah,
absolutely 100% better than the Hunchback. Like, no, it's in medium range when the Hunchback is out of range, and it's faster, so you could just walk circles around it. Always stay at that 10 hex range, be in medium range for your large lasers. That Hunchback's AC-20 maxes out at 9. It can't hit you. It can't keep up with you. Far superior. And the battle value shows it in Classic. But in Alpha Strike, they are almost exactly the same BV. I think it's 28 to 29 point values.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
It's like almost exact. But the Hunchback has more damage at short and medium range than the Crab does, and the Crab has 0 long range. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand the Alpha Strike conversion for that. So in Alpha Strike, they're almost even, but in Classic, the Crab is definitely the superior 50-tonner.
So what all I heard from that entire paragraph was Denham's money is on the Hunchbacks.
I admit that I have not thrown my support against either of them yet. I was waiting to see if one was significantly behind the other. I do like to support the underdog, though, so we will see. We will
Excellent.
see.
I'm
definitely donating.
Denim.
I just want to see. I just want to see where I'm throwing my money.
That's all. Honestly, it's all going to the kids. So even if you throw your money against the wrong side, the kids still win. So
that's right.
Don't feel too bad.
My money goes to the winner.
Until that Hunchback misses and hits the orphanage again.
All right, well, let's get out of the news world for this week. Hobby progress. Okay, who wants to go first?
I did very little, so there. I did it.
That's okay. You had other things to do.
I was prepping for that tournament. I was doing a lot of that stuff. I remember last year going over everything that we had to do. There was so much printing and prepping and calling people, and it was so hobby progress, but none of it was tangible.
That's okay. We forgive you this time.
Well, that's good, because it's going to happen again.
All right. Well, I got a lot done, a lot for myself and not for the tournament. I started freehanding Federated Suns logos onto some of my other green mechs, and then painting up some more Davians, another lance of them. So I got a Black Knight, a Black Jack, a Valkyrie, a Centurion, a Mobile HQ, and a Maxim. Primed, based, layered, and then highlighted. I think I had enough time to freehand the logo onto the Maxim and the Black Knight. And now I think last episode I mentioned that I got the Insane Psycho brush. It's almost still too big. Like, I hate to admit it, but it is still too big to do like the sunburst of the sun from the Fed Suns logo. And I'm like,
You need thinner nose hairs, Josh.
I'm refusing to get decals. I'm refusing. Not because like I've had poor experiences with Fighting Piranha graphics logos, but I don't know. I feel like there's just something about a mech that has everything freehanded onto it instead of a decal and then some fun freehands. So it's the principle of it. But I did get my Centurion. I modified that one because I wanted the Centurion Omni with a Rack 5 variant. So I actually took the Centurion, cut its gun off, cut the whole arm off actually, glued it back so it's actually pointing forward instead of just kind of pointing down, and put the like a Rack 5 Gatling barrel on it. So it's not a whole lot of modification, but like I have 3 Centurions, they all look the same, and now they don't look the same. So it's kind of nice to have a little bit of difference between 2 identical mechs.
That's exciting
I
stuff.
agree with that.
Did you use the rack barrel? Did you use an Iron Man metal bit, or did you get one of the 3D printed ones? What did you use for the modification?
So I have enough Death Ray Designs, like Steel Rift kits around that they include like full weapon kit in every one of those. So I just use I think they called it a Gatling barrel in their terminal knowledge or terminal language. So I just use that if it's okay. I also tried modifying one because I finally got the multi-part Wolverine, and I did that with the full long barrel, and that just looked too long. Like, not even. Some people were like, that looks as long as it is tall. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. And they're like, no.
How very Dougram of you.
Whoa now. So I don't know. I'll probably cut that and make that smaller too. But I'm saving that for next week. But yeah, so like I said, got a lot of painting, a lot of highlighting. The dry brushing helps because it's all just green. There's no like, one part is black and this part's white. Like, it's none of that. It's all layers of green, which is okay.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. Steve, what about you?
Mostly buying. I got some paints that I've been missing. Got a couple of high detail brushes. I bought some of the. I'm trying out new texture paints, so I'm trying some Tamiya soil effects for my display board. I got to use those. That was kind of fun.
I like that stuff. It's solid once you get the hang of it.
Yeah, I mean, it took a little bit. I started doing the display board first, so I could mess it up there, and then do the bases on my mechs later. So I had a better handle on how to use it.
Good plan.
I did purchase. The big purchase I made was I got a new static grass machine.
Ooh.
Because they make tufts that you can stick on the bottom of mechs, right? But
yeah, I've got some of those.
The tufts are never the right scale because they're meant for 28. Yeah.
Never.
So I said, look, if I want vertical grass and not just flocking, which is more like crumbs, if I want literal vertical grass, I got to get that 2 millimeter grass to make it, look right for the right scale. So I bit the bullet and I bought the static grass machine. I haven't played with it yet, but it's on my to-do list.
How does a static grass machine work? Because first off, I'm going to
electricity.
So you have to plug this equipment in, and it applies grass to your, I'm guessing, glued base.
What you do is you take glue and you put it on the base of whatever you're trying to use it for. The grass is actually nylon thread that's been cut to whatever length and dyed whatever color you're looking for, and you shake it out of this machine. There's almost like a little sieve that you fill it with, and you shake it over the glue, and the current will cause the nylon to go vertical, and it will hit the glue and stay stuck as if it were grass growing up and not laying on the ground and pointing every which way if you try to sprinkle it on yourself. So that's how you
don't have to plug it in or anything. Like, it's natural static electricity, right?
I haven't taken it out of the box. I can go look at it, but I think it's got a plug.
Hasn't even used it. Okay.
Like I said, I bought it. I bought it a couple days ago. I was all excited. Haven't had a chance to use it yet, but I'm going to. It's going to look great. I promise. I did, because I don't hate myself and I value my nose hairs more than Josh. I bought decals for the Free Worlds League and the American Militia because I'm not trying to freehand that.
Yeah, I respect a good freehand. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to decal as well.
Yep. I got so many hours in the day, and my
kids. God.
Not only that, it's just I know myself. If I were to botch it at the last minute, because the decals and the logos are the last thing that I do. I've got the mech just the way I want it. It's all perfect. And if I botch that logo, I'll hate myself and I'll hate the model. It's horrible. Yeah. So I got decals. It's just not worth the trouble for me. I mean, freehanding is fun, and I can do like fun stuff, put names on things or logos or whatever. Or not, but house logos is just too much. I did paint.
Cowards. I'm going to say cowards.
Yeah. Okay.
Push your limits. Don't get comfortable.
That's fair. I did paint all of my. Well, I can't say all of because I've got some others in blisters, but I did paint 4 Crab 27s that are the Ironman model or Ironman metal models. So they are a Star League green. I want to do like an old kind of throwback stuff. So we've got that Star League green with a couple of identifying racing stripes on them. We did purple and blue and orange and red to kind of differentiate those. And then we've got a Ironman Metals King Crab that is also in Star League green. So I've constructed a classic lob star for the Crab Ragoons for Crabback. And I'm beginning to work on another lobstar of CGL plastic crabs. So that way I'll be able to differentiate what's what on the battlefield for the crabback throwdown. But that's all of my hobby progress for today.
Okay. All right, let's move to some games played.
I played 0 games. You're welcome.
Nice.
What is it? You have to average 1 per month, Steve. 1 per month.
Hey man, my kid got sick. I got sick. Everything. It's been a mess. So no trips to the game shop this week or this month, I guess. But we've got some lined up for next week, so I'll have a couple of games ready to report.
Okay,
Cool.
Denim?
My most notable game of this last one was Jason Hansa came by for the tournament, and beforehand he wanted to see how the mercenary campaign stuff worked. So I walked him through setting up a campaign for that. I believe he took a Star Slayer and a Chameleon. We did the objective raid mission, played through that. It was a lot of fun. Hansa is definitely a Total Warfare vehicles sort of person. But as we were using the BSP vehicles, he was seeing, especially in smaller scale battles, the appeal of that. How easy they were to deploy, how much fun they were to drive around, the fact that his Pegasus did take out one of my mechs before I finally destroyed it. So they were not doing nothing. They were holding their own. My turrets were very much like HBS Battletech game turrets. They were doing some damage. They were absorbing some damage. They didn't last forever. So it was a lot of fun. He ended up taking that one. I think it was 100 to 50. A lot of fun. And we also, as an update to our last podcast, realized that I believe I had said that these games were designed so that you were playing the contract with the same person for all of the tracks. So, when you start up a contract, you pick another player and you play all of your tracks with that one player till your contract is over. We tested it out with not doing that and just having whoever happened to be there had their unit, and we rolled for the mission. It worked out just fine. You do not have to stick with the same person. You can just play with whoever's there, and it worked out super fine. There were 0 issues with it, so I will take that back.
No, that's fantastic. That was a major concern I had, because what if I want to? I mean, do I really have to roll up one mercenary in it just to play you? If
and
we
that's
only
that's how we started, and then we just didn't one time, and it worked out just fine. There wasn't a single issue. All the problems that I thought were going to pop up, not a single problem popped up.
What problems did you think were going to pop up?
Logistics problems where you're like the ebb and flow of the battle, where somebody starts winning a lot and the other person starts losing a lot, and then your decisions and your mercenary company are sort of based on how your opponent is doing as well. But if you ignore what your opponent's doing, it doesn't really change anything that you do, like, at all.
Okay.
They're very independent. And if you play against a totally random person with totally different mechs than the person had last time, there was zero consequences, which makes me super excited. I'm even more excited about this now.
Did you mention what you were taking versus what Jason was taking?
Oh, I had the Hatchetman with the ER mediums, and the one that goes 585 because I don't like 4.6 for Hatchetman, and I had a Thunderbolt. The 4.6, the one that goes 4.6 and jumps for 6. The Thunderbolt was just dominating. The Hatchetman took an airstrike, a Pegasus. Pegasus's BSPs do 3 groups of 7 points of damage when they hit. Like, it's a significant amount of damage. So a Star Slayer, a Chameleon, some airstrikes, and a Pegasus just focus firing that. It didn't last long enough. I did not get a single hatchet off before I lost that mech. It was not truly destroyed, so it was at least repairable at the end. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. That was the first time I'd actually played the objective raid game all the way through, and it went pretty well. At first, it seemed overwhelmingly difficult for the attacker side, but it was actually pretty even at the end.
That's good.
Yeah, it was.
But no, I'm glad were able to get another Mercenaries campaign game in.
I'm glad that I was able to share it with someone who had not played it, who lives in a different area. So he will be going back to Virginia and helping other people walk through their mercenary campaigns, and it's just going to spread even more.
It's like an STD denim.
I know. I am patient zero.
All right. For mine, I did get 2 mercenary games in as well. But first, I had to build my force. And I started by actually going to the MechWarrior 2 RPG, which I have a random copy of from my days scrounging. And I think this was literally just given to a game store box. They were like, hey, someone might want these old books. And I was like, ooh, old MechWarrior. Let's see what we can do out of this. And I actually rolled up characters for the RPG with, kind of ignoring a lot of the high technical stuff, but the backstories and give them flavor. I don't want to just self-insert myself into 2 characters that are piloting mechs. So I don't have a name for my mercenary company yet, but I have 2 pilots. I have a Veld Baranda in a Battle Axe 8D and Iris Hammerwright. Good old name generators. Don't you love them? In a Centurion Omni-Mech.
Nice.
Yeah.
For names, I do like naming my pilots after people I know so that it's not me who's rolling poorly, it's them who are doing poorly. So when I meet them later, I'll be like, dude, you just ruined that whole game for me. Never my fault now. That's the beauty of that.
Denim, we're going to inform me that you died terribly.
Exactly.
The cockpit exploded.
See, I thought about that. I thought about naming these about people I know, but I was like, no. I want something more organic, something that actually puts me a little bit more into the Battletech universe than what my brain normally does.
We have a whole Patreon that I get to draw from.
I figured those would be my opponents as I kill.
Well, when you play against me, they will be.
All right. But yeah, so what I decided was I won't name my mercenary company and I won't give my pilots call signs till after the first contract, because there's no point in giving them a, quote, call name if they're not going to survive 3 games. So,
I agree with that. I say a pilot doesn't get a call sign until they're a 3-4 at least.
3-4, man.
Yeah. That's after the contract, because you get the first,
okay.
boost, so you're a 3-5. So once they begin with 3-4, then I'll give them a call sign.
So it's the same. I was waiting for
same thing, just different
mental justification.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I've always waited until they've done something memorable on the battlefield before they get a name. But
for Josh, that's just coming home alive.
Yeah, no, it really was. My practice games, as we all know, pilot died. And I was like, yeah, I'm not writing backstories for these schmucks. But anyway, so I'm just, because we're going to have a new subcategory of games played called Campaign Corner, where we talk about our mercenaries campaigns and our lives of our unwitting mercenary contractors. So,
is that name already set in stone? Are we workshopping that still?
Campaign Corner?
Yeah.
Do you not like that?
I think we could do better, but
we could probably do better.
We'll stick with that.
It's Campaign Corner or something better. But yeah, so I've got, like I said, Veld. This is from the Mechwarrior RPG. I assigned a D whatever number to whatever my choices were in that. So I rolled early childhood. They grew up on a farm, so got strong, tough, and all that. Not as charismatic, and their parent took them hunting, so they actually had some weapon use as a kid. Then we move on to late childhood, and they moved deeper into the backwoods, but they did somehow find time to go to school, so they were not just backwoods feral in the periphery. They did get an education. I was like, this is good. I like my character getting some education. Once we moved to higher education, they were enlisted in the military, and they received support training. So not frontline combatant, but more support. So I was like, okay, I kind of feel where this is going. They then rolled again and got special training for infantry. And I was like, okay, they get any attribute technically for rules wise for that. And I was like, okay, we're gonna make you a good infantryman. Then we went to the real life stage, and they got a tour of duty in the inner sphere. And I was like, oh boy, this could mean anything. And I was like, well, New Avalon just got liberated. We'll say something around there. And so they rolled their 2d6 and they got an 11. So they got Lost Tech jackpot.
That's exciting. What'd they find?
They get to
An urban mech lamb.
They get to own a vehicle. And considering this is an Ill Clan Mercenaries box set, I was like, I will choose something that the Federated Sons might have had and put away for, safekeeping or like in a reserve that got lost. And I was like, okay, we'll pick a Jihad mech. Oh no, it's the Battle Axe 8D. It's pretty simple. It's hefty. It's not like super powerful. It's just some medium lasers and MMLs. Sounded like a fun, slow, Lost Tech level mech that might be like stored away and then forgotten about. It's not valuable to mark. It's just like, we built enough of these, we put them in a warehouse, and the warehouse got lost. So I thought that was fun.
As they do.
Misplace a warehouse? How do you misplace a warehouse?
It happens.
The
Jihad.
Frequently. How does he acquire this? Through Jihad.
Oh, no.
But yeah, so my other pilot, Iris, they were unfortunately born, or fortunately, jury's still out, into nobility. So I was like, okay, this might be more Lyran then. So we're going like Fedcom 2, Electric Boogaloo. Their family immersed them in culture, so they went to a good, museum tour around the sphere, so arts and languages. But their family did have to send Iris to the military school. And unfortunately, while they were there, they got a rival. So it wasn't all sunshine and butterflies. I did roll well enough, though, into the higher education stage that they did get into the NAIS. So they got into the New Avalon Institute of Science. I was like, okay, that's pretty big for someone not actually born in the Federated Sons, but we'll go with it. And it said the sub role for that is the Commandant served with your aunt in the big one. I was like, okay, this is definitely after New Avalon fell then. So they got proper Mechwarrior training for their advanced infantry training or advanced AIT training. And then they were assigned for real life to a training cadre. So I was like, this works out great because I'm painting up a cadet cadre right now. And then for their role, they also rolled high. They rolled a 19 on their 2d10 roll. And that is awarded the Silver Sunburst for gallantry under fire. So they were promoted and got ownership of a mech. And I was like, man, the RPG really writes itself.
And that's literally what it's there to do.
And I was like, this is great because I got rolled 2 Mechwarriors with cool, interesting backstories. And I was like, okay, so this person went the proper route and they're noble. So, I'm going to give them a Centurion Omni-Mech. So I was like, this sounds great. And yeah. Thoughts, Steve?
It sounds like the system works. Look, I know with my luck, when I finally make my mercenary group, I don't know if I'm going through as much trouble because I know these people are going to die. I'm not terribly good at Classic and I have a tendency to get people killed. So I'll hold off until I get a couple campaigns under my belt before I go through the trouble. But if it brings you joy to have backstories and characters, I encourage everyone to do that because I don't think I would go through the trouble myself to do that with the backstories, but if you like it and it brings you joy, do it. It only, furthers the story as you play these games and they get a life of their own, which is great. So it's exciting to see that you've gone through this and, those old systems, they're a little bit of a slog, right? They've got so many roles to do for this stage of life, that stage of life, but it really does build a comprehensive, real living, breathing person when you get to the end of it.
Yeah, I had to spend a day learning how to do it and then another day just to okay, that was a practice character. Now let's roll up a real character. And so
yeah, I think it took an average of 3 full notebook sheets every time I rolled up a character for Mechwarrior RPG. But it gave me something to do back in my younger years when I was trying to find a game to play and no one was around. So you get a day or so to just wait. It's a great way to spend the time.
Oh, yeah. No, it was fun. And like I said, getting a backstory for a character really will, attach me to the mercenary company. So it's like, makes me want to get out and play more mercenary contracts and see how they, live through. And well, unfortunately, if they die, I will probably let them die and have to roll a new character. But that's half the fun. So,
Josh, are you telling me you're looking for additional reasons to cry on a daily basis when you lose your beloved pilot you just spent 2 hours rolling up?
Look, I'm not commissioning an artist, do a self-portrait and then like the next game they die and it's like rips the paper.
It's not the next game. It's when they're a 1/1 pilot gunner with all their SPAs, and then they take that one Gauss rifle from across the map where the guy needed an 11 to hit you and then a 12 to get your cockpit, and you fail the ejection roll on turn 1.
Look, it doesn't even have to be a Gauss rifle. It can be less.
It could be an
that.
AC2. Yeah.
Golden BB from downtown.
We've all seen it happen.
Yeah. But I will go into my 2 games because I did get to play Jeff 2 games one day, which was great because the scale 1 3000 BV goes real fast. Like
they do, and that is one of my favorite parts about this is you could literally get a full game in with talking, not like nose to the grindstone in under 2 hours.
Beautiful. I loved it. So yeah, my first game, I was the defender and Jeff was the attacker. Like I said, I took my Centurion Omnimech with this one was the Rack 5, MML 9, and a medium laser, and Centurion specifically, versus Jeff's Phoenix Hawk and Grasshopper. So I was defending the ammo caches, and Jeff was trying to attack and take them off the board. And I roll up, and I take 2 of the long-range turrets, and Jeff takes, for his BSPs, I want to say a hovercraft and some infantry. So yeah, turn 1, I plink away and actually do like 30 points of damage to his Grasshopper, like 10 from each turret, and then some missiles from both my mechs. I was like, okay, this is going pretty good. Turn 2, I get a full burst of Rack 5 off onto the Phoenix Hawk, which jumped like to my left side of the Centurion. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. The MMLs hit, full SRM salvo, medium laser hits. I was like, this can't go any better. He returns fire. He hits my head with like a medium laser. I was like, that's fine. It's the first consciousness hit. What's the worst that can happen? Snake eyes. Oh, God.
Every time.
Turn 2, we out. I was like, but as long as I don't take 20 damage. Oh, no. So they fall. They take another pilot hit. And then the rest of the game, Jeff is like, I'm going to destroy your turrets. Then I'm going to beat your Centurion while it's unconscious on the ground. I could not roll to get conscious after 2 pilot hits until the last turn. Jeff was able to
just get a nap.
Sometimes I was like, oh, this hurts so. I was like, it's that noble character. I was like, this is why you went to sleep.
That's right. He got his call sign. It's Gary Snorlax Nobles. Yeah. Thankfully the Centurion was not destroyed, even if it has an Intersphere XL. It had like 1 structure left on it, I think. And he did not touch the battle axe, which was defending one of the other objectives. So at the end, I paid off So at the end, he was able to get 1 of the ammo caches off the board. So he won, and I did not destroy or cripple any of his mechs. But I did do technically damage to both of them, like internal on one and armor on the other. And I only had the Centurion crippled, but not destroyed. So I was like, okay, battle axe, no damage, not a single shot. I was like, this is the best case scenario. A not destroyed mech and an untouched mech. So we go into... That was a first for you, I think.
Yeah, no, I was like, this is pretty good. We're doing great.
Here's a question. We didn't cover this in the last episode, but do you have to pay for ammunition resupply?
You do.
Yes, you do. So if you've got an SRM2 with 50 shots and you only used 5 of them, you're going to want to go into the next one with 5 less ammo. Because
That's awesome.
Because you don't want to pay that, because the 10 SP covers an entire ton.
Yeah,
that's
or
cool.
fraction thereof that you rearm.
That's
so
pretty cool.
Machine gun, you dump that and you just never fill it back up. unless you're going up against infantry. But
So,
if you got those,
machine gun might
those-
actually come in handy in the mercenaries campaign.
I changed my mind. But yeah, anything that's got a lot of ammo in the bin, just don't refill it. Go in there with partial ammo loads.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we re-rack for game 2. This one was just straight up meat engagement, so I'm fighting him. I originally was going to take the Galleon or Pegasus. Yeah, it was the Pegasus tank because I was like, ooh, 3 groups of 7. This is great for damage. Then we rolled for the map and it was the woods, and I was like, this hovercraft cannot go more than one full turn before it has to turn around. Can't go through any woods. I was like, all right.
Yeah, even if it takes the river, it's still
Yeah, no,
there's
that's
only one single path through there. I know because Hansa and I played on that map, and he had the Pegasus, and he's just like, I'm stuck because I put one of the buildings in that little section.
Oh, you're terrible.
It was just there's a line across the map that he could not cross with that, and it still killed my mech.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so I went with 2 vedettes instead, which was fine. I liked them. They're fine. He took, I want to say, a Manticore. Well, he took a heavy tank, so I repaired one of my pilot hits, so I sent it back out, and I ran up the field. Instead of splitting my fire, I decided I'm just going to put both of my mechs against his Grasshopper, which is, in my opinion, the scarier mech. We exchanged fire, not a lot of hits. There's enough woods that we're getting a lot of good cover, even with gunnery 3 pilots on both sides. There's a turn where I stand my Centurion still. He jumps his Phoenix Hawk across the river, and I just blast, and I open up the full salvo of the Rack 5. And I was like, this is why I like the gambling guns, because when they spike good. And I was like 25 damage because I didn't go Rack 6. I went Rack 5. So, but I want to say I took his arm off, and then between the medium laser and SRMs, I really did internal damage on the Phoenix Hawk. Yeah, like it was one of those turn 1 or the first turn of real shooting. I did major damage.
You said the Phoenix Hawk or the Grasshopper?
To his Phoenix Hawk.
Okay.
Yeah. The Battle Axe decided, it's going to tango with the Grasshopper and try to weather the shots of the tank. So I'm shooting. I'm doing enough damage. It's we're trading blows. We're not doing anything crazy. The Phoenix Hawk, I went initiative. Phoenix Hawk jumps. My Centurion runs over to it's been 3 weeks. This is the problem. Essentially what happens is my Battle Axe has to move first. So I move it, and I move it to try to shoot into the rear of his tank. That's fine. My Centurion runs up right in front, hex front of his Grasshopper. I was like, okay, we're getting brawly here. My Battle Axe misses all the shots into the back of the tank, but he does get the 2 MMLs. So it does, I think, 40 damage total because you double the damage into the rear of BS assets, right? Yeah. So that was a lot of damage. So we're doing a -2 or 3 to that roll for destruction on that turn. And the Centurion just, once again, opens up, does enough damage to the Grasshopper that it falls down. And at that point, Jeff's kind of defeated. And, I'm like, okay, we're going to wrap this turn up, and we'll just call it I've crippled your Phoenix Hawk, and at this point, your Grasshopper isn't looking well. I roll the kick on his downed Battle Axe, and I boxcars it and crush the head.
Which, I believe, brings you to another first for mercenary campaigns.
Winning a game?
Yes, sir.
Gosh. Yeah,
congratulations.
It felt good, but bad. I was like, you hate to win by killing your opponent's character. It's but yeah, it felt good because, that did happen to me the last couple of games. So
turnabout is fair play.
Yeah. I think the good thing about this is it's very easy to just restart and be like, cool, I've just gotten new characters for these mechs and restarted a mercenary. There's nothing saying I can't
for the early ones.
Yeah.
But also before you switch to scale 2, even if you have over 6,000 BV, it's nice to have a stable of 4 to 6 mechs that you just have spares of for situations like this, which I think also make for fun stories. But yeah, if you lose super hard and you're down to only one mech after your first contract, there's no reason not to just start over. But even if you just do poorly, a lot of times you've got enough stuff and you can salvage enough mechs or purchase some new ones that you're still in the game, and it's still fun to play.
Yeah. So I got paid for that. I won, and my pilots are coming out of their first win, which feels really good for them. Drinks are on the Merc Commander. But yeah.
Snorlax.
Yeah. I'm thinking Spiker because their rolls are either 2s or 12s. But like I said, they got one more Merc. They have one more month before the contract's over. Then we'll see what their name is. But yeah. So like I said, campaign corner. We can do better, but until then.
All right. If you play Jeff for your third game, Jeff.
Oh, because there is a third game.
All of his cockpit. You need to kill all of his pilots. His cockpit crit all of them.
Murderer.
But as we found out, you don't have to play Jeff for your third one.
That's true. I actually think I might get a different opponent who wants to try out the box set. But that'll be after this show. So
all right, mysterious opponent, crit all of his cockpits.
No.
It's not hard.
Just roll 12s.
I've done it. It's not hard.
All right. Well, that was all for games played. I've rambled for like 30 minutes. So let's move on to some fan mail.
Fan mail. This fan mail comes from Brad Wiseman. First off, love the show. Been listening for about a year. Got into Battletech around then. Played a few games of Classic and bought a ton of plastic. Had a baby and then got out of the game again. And put it on the back burner, but still listen and read the lore. Going to play my first Alpha Strike 350 tournament in November at the Toledo Game Room. I've never made a list or played with anyone other than family. Is this list okay? I like to be weird and have fun, so I'm playing a pirate faction in the Jihad era. My thoughts for this list were to try a few different types of units and get my feet wet and retro learn the ins and outs. My strategy being utilizing my Orion and lowering the skill to get hits with the S-Snark, and the majority of my units have at least indirect fire 1. Threw it a Lumberjack as a cheap filler, size 3 and has melee. I know this team won't win anything, but I'm just looking to have fun and get experience and paint them in groups, bright yellow, orange, and dazzle pattern. Let's see here, sorry. Any major problems or mistakes I've made, any help would be appreciated. Be gentle. So he has the Strychnine Slavers, which is a pirate list in the Jihad era. He has 2 beast-mounted infantry, a skimmer, a warrior attack helicopter, H-7A, an LRM carrier, 2 Hetzer wheeled assault guns, LRM variant, an Orion M, longbow 0W2, the Trebuchet 5N, a Dervish 6M, as in Mancy, Griffin 1N, Anubis 3L, Crusader 3R, Lumberjack LM4/P, and a J-27 Ordnance Transport. So, Brad, first thing I want to say is I love this list because it feels very piratey. You've got the beast-mounted infantry. You've got a smattering of weird, like, vehicles, and you've got a couple of mechs that aren't shabby either. You asked for feedback. I have a little bit. Josh, did you see anything that stood out to you before I dive into this?
Yeah, I like the list. Like, it's a fun list. My first thought is it doesn't really do any damage. Like, it's very low damage.
Yes, but as he mentioned in the email, the Orion has the special S-Narc ability, which anything that has indirect fire or LRM or SRM would do an additional damage to any target that has been marked with a Narc pod. My number one complaint in this list is
you got to hit something with that first.
Not only is it you have to hit it, but it is only the Orion that carries S-Narc. No other unit in this list has the Narc ability. So if I were playing this list, I would say, I'll just shoot the Orion on turn 2, or you kill it, and then go about my business and mop up the Hetzers and the Warriors and anything else that's still kind of floating around. I would encourage you to look for another unit or two, even 2 units It would be great to have 3 units on the list that have Narc. Your susceptibilities are going to be ECM, but I do see that you have the Anubis that has ECM on it. So if the counter ECM rules are in play, that may help you a little bit.
The problem is the Anubis has stealth, so it can either stealth or ECM. So you have to know what you're doing with that first.
Correct. But with the TMM of 3, if he switches off the stealth armor, it would be more beneficial to him to get the extra damage than have the Anubis with the stealth active. But I mean, he would have to make that decision. I do like the Lumberjack because very rarely do you see agromechs in tournament play. I don't love it.
I want to say there's probably a reason. It might be that it's very slow. It's tanky. Like I don't want to say it's not a good list, but it's like, okay, drop the Lumberjack and put in a second something with Narc, or just up the Orion's Narc skill. But I think Hetzer, Skimmer, like, you don't need 2 LRM Hetzers. You have an LRM carrier that are doing the same thing.
I mean, the Hetzer, so no, this is for a 350 game, right? For Wolfnet 350. So he may want those Hetzers because they move a little better than an LRM carrier.
Two inches.
Right, but you've got a sideboard, right? And it has 350.
Yes.
Yeah. So I see the benefit in having a lot of tools in the toolbox, for sure.
My thought is he's only brought 1 tool, and that's Narc.
That was also the thing I was going to mention was just no backup, because what is the old saying? 1 is none and 2 is 1.
Mm-hmm, correct.
If you lose the one item you have that is key to your entire list, that's a big problem. I love the beast mounted infantry, and the Lumberjack makes it feel even more piratey. Also, not a great unit, but a very thematic unit, and I like that.
The feelings are there. You look at this and you say, yeah, there's no way this is anything other than pirates. And it feels fun. Absolutely. I do see the Skimmer. If I recall correctly, people are using Skimmers as a 7-point cruise missile because it moves 26. It's, you just smash into stuff with it. But I don't see what's really doing for your list. Same with the
capturing objectives.
Sure, but
I mean, it's skill 4. That's what
all
skill
it's
4
doing.
does. Skill 4 captures objectives. Skill 2 is a cruise missile.
No, but still, those 7 points plus the 2 from the ordnance transport may be better suited getting you another Narc unit, right? Because if you
I agree with that.
If you clip that, the Lumberjack and the ordnance, all of a sudden you're saving yourself 28 points. That's, it's a light mech, maybe a medium.
Yeah,
I mean, it feels piratey. I think you're right. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna perform the way he wants.
Yeah, it's you're gonna want to Narc, and I've ran Narc lists with 1 skill 3 Narc. I only hit maybe on turn 2, turn 3, and then that thing dies, and I don't hit with Narcs again. Like, that's the problem with Narc. Like,
well, the other thing to consider is how many turns are you getting in a tournament format.
That's what
you're
I was
limited
to
how long the matches are. If you only get 2 turns, that Narc isn't going to have the time to pay itself off in BV. So
I would say in a lot of tournaments, I've only seen. I haven't played a whole lot in Alpha Strike, but I've only seen like 4 to 6 turns, oftentimes.
Yeah,
and it's how much can you do in that amount of time. It's my problem with heat lists too. Heat lists get better and better and better the more turns you go along. You get into the game. If the game is over by turn 4, that's a lot of BV or PV that you have spent on heat that you don't get to use.
Yeah. I like the list. I think it's good. I think it's a fun thematic list. I also don't play a ton of Wolfnet, so I don't know how this breaks out when you're looking at sideboarding stuff, so I can't lend a lot of expertise there. But
I see how it's going to break out, and the problem is every game you're going to have to take the Orion, and because you've made an Orion the absolute need to tank, and it's not going to last more than a turn. A good player will just kill that in turn 1. It's too slow. It is not able to hide, especially if it wants to get out and Narc. Like, yeah, I think you can run an indirect fire list. I think you just need to cut a third of the units to be more dedicated. Like, okay, this is my tank. This is my damage dealer. My problem looking at this is there's 5 mechs that all do the same thing. So why are you taking 5 in a format that lets you exchange things? Like you can't run all the mechs here, but they all do all the same thing. But that's a little too rough to talk about on a show, right?
More S-Narc.
More S-Narc.
Yeah. Take another S-Narc and drop a couple indirect fire and take a tank and a damage dealer.
And make sure you spend most of your time painting those beast-mounted infantry. I want to see them look so good.
The best. Honestly, the beast-mounted infantry for 8 points, if you can
They're not
close, they get anti-mech.
Yeah.
Well, here's the problem. They have to technically do damage to do the crit. So like it's
Right. But for
it's
8 points,
it's a 50-50 chance. Nope. It is a infantry, not a battle armor. It is a +3 to anti-mech.
Yeah. Roll 12s.
Yeah, you are a 7-up before the enemy's TMM.
Yeah, but if you get in the rear, the damage is guaranteed, right?
I don't know how
it's one for rear. Works. Well, that's true. I don't know the Wolf
That's
Networks,
the thing. I don't know how
the
Wolf
rear
Networks
should be 1
that.
and then star or 0 star.
Yeah, that's why reading the individual tournament. It's super important to read the rules for your tournament that you're going to, and don't just assume that it's going to be one way or another. Like, make sure, double check.
But still, 8 points for an anti-mech attack with those free crips, the critical hits. I think that's not bad.
It is a pirate. I would.
Yeah.
He's not. He said already. He's not trying to win. And this is very piratey themed. So yeah.
I don't want you to have a bad time when you don't get to do the thing that you want to do.
That's a good concern, right? If he shows up thinking he's going to do this and it goes the wrong way, he may have a bad time. So
you might narc, and that narc might be like, everyone's going to have ECM. So it's like, cool, I'm just going to put that under ECM. Or the thing that you hit me with a narc, I'm just going to like move it behind and out of range or something. It's like, okay, cool. All of your IF1, like you only get to indirect fire that. And it's like, is that even the best target for that turn? Because when you narc something, you give your opponent control over I want this unit to be my target next turn or this turn. So it's one of those.
If it didn't have those drawbacks, it would be too powerful.
Yeah.
Like that's it's built into the game.
Like I said, I've ran narc list. My Comstar list is a narc list.
This would be an amazing narrative game type of thing, because a GM could do a story for this mercenary unit that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree, and it's fun to look at these. So thank you very much for sending that in.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll get into our main subject of tournament recap and maybe some Alpha Strike. And we're back. All right, guess what, everyone? We had another tournament. Woo!
Yay!
No way.
Yeah.
Already?
I mean, look, if I could do one episode per month was just tournament recap, that would be the dream. Just go to a tournament, play, talk about it. Like that's all I want. But this was the local Triangle Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill Battletech tournament that Dustin puts on. He comes out of his hole.
He did move it to October this year, because I think we did it in August last year and it was 97 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Much, much better this time. You were at both, so you know the difference in temperature from what it was.
It was noticeably cooler.
It was what I would consider comfortable the entire time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so Dustin, like I said, put on his Triangle Classic tournament, not Mechbay tournament, Triangle local tournament. Now, I am kept completely in the dark for legal purposes. I did not even know a tournament was being held, because even that pre-knowledge could affect me in my play. And Dustin knows Josh would rather play than TO.
Well, that's true. Like if it was the Mechbay tournament, you would not be allowed to participate.
Exactly. And what's the fun in that? No one wants to hear me talking about reviewing lists and sending them back when people bring illegal tech. And nobody wants
pods.
That. Yeah.
I get so many chaff pods. So more than one people submitted lists with chaff pods.
So because
they're awesome, not legal.
Let's mention that. So this was a 3-round 7,500 BV, minimum 4 units, maximum 6.
Maximum 6. The skills, the piloting skills, it's between 3 and 5, and they couldn't be more than one apart. So no 3-5 pilots or 5-3, nothing like that. Which I did get quite a few of those, and I'm like, no, it does say you have to be within one apart.
Reading comprehension is hard for BattleTech players.
If it's not in the chart, we don't look at it.
But there was one other thing. The lists were not faction restricted, but they were restricted to tech. So you had introductory, standard, and advanced, but it also had to be Battle Mech Manual or Total Warfare technology.
Correct.
So if Master Unit list said it was experimental, but it used Battle Mech Manual, you could not, because it's technically experimental for a reason. So
correct. I didn't particularly personally like that experimental classification. That I think just limiting by tech would have been fine. So that may be a change that we make. Probably, most likely, we'll make for one of the next ones.
Yeah. I think it's the hill that someone's going to die on, and it's experimental needs to go away and just be like, this uses interstellar operations rules or something.
Well, all mechs are experimental in a particular era, like all of them. So that's what gets me.
Mm-hmm. And this had no era. That was the other thing. So there was no era.
No faction, no era.
So, so Dustin put out the list ahead of time, or not list. Dustin put out the missions ahead of time. So we all got to review and look at those. But no, so I had fun. I took, for my list, a Legacy 05. That is the 2 VSPs, 2 light PPCs, and 2 MML7s. And took that at a 4-4. I took the Greyhound 18 because it's a local tournament, and I slide Dustin the $20 to say, hey, let me take my custom mech in. And I took that at 4-4. That's the large pulse laser, 2 medium pulse, a claw, TSM, and supercharger. So, yeah, no, I like running it.
Goes fast.
Goes fast. Guns. Yeah. Yeah, when the TSM and supercharger kick off, it's a 7-14.
That's fast.
That's fast.
Yeah, with double damage punches and claws and kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for a heavy mech, that's pretty dang good.
Oh, yeah. Also returning favorite, I took the Exterminator 7X with stealth armor, XXL engine, a coolant pod, 4 VSPs, laser AMS, MRM-10, and a small laser, and the nuclear reactor it rides it on.
And that coolant pod got used every game.
Except the first one, actually. It did not... it only shot once the first game. Yeah. Next mech was a Ryzen 101A, 3 medium pulse lasers, ERPPC, Streak SRM-2, and an SRM-6. And then my last mech at a 5-5. Would you ever take a mech at 5-5 to a classic tournament, Steve?
Not if I could help it.
Yeah.
I need all the help I can get. My dice rolls are terrible.
I would probably take a Dasher P if I needed something super cheap that was super fast, because it's got those -2s anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to have pulse weapons and preferably a targeted computer for me to go to a 5 gunnery, though.
Yeah. But no, this one was an Oscout 8J with 812-8 movement profile, a medium X-Pulse laser, a Bloodhound active probe, and an Angel ECM for the ultimate E-War delivery device. So,
I noticed you didn't take a Black Knight, but you did take a Raijin. Good old classic Raijin.
Good old classic Raijin. Yeah, I don't want to say I phoned this list in, but I was really like, I liked the list I took last year. The only difference with being the Night Sky got exchanged for the Raijin, and the variant changed on the Oscout. But Denham, did you have any thoughts when you saw my list?
No, I mean, it looked like a Josh list, like 100%.
Okay.
That's what it looked like.
Josh has a style. It includes Raijins.
He does.
Good old
nothing you took. How about nothing you took was a surprise? I was not shocked by anything that you brought.
Okay, yeah. I will say I wanted to take the Ultra Autocannon Legacy, and that was just too many PV. And I was like, why is the VSP Legacy the cheap one and the Autocannon one the expensive one? I mean,
head cappers.
Yeah, it's that, but fine. But yeah. So how many of your lists did you have to send back to them that had illegal stuff?
Way more than I thought. Like 7 or 8.
Oh wow,
easy. Yeah. Not just a few.
What was the main culprit? Just the experimentalness, or?
Yes. Well, I would say quite a few people did not read the part where they saw the part where the gunnery and piloting had to be between 3 and 5, but not that they had to be within 1 of each other. You had a lot of people with melee based mechs who had a 5 gunnery, 3 piloting, and I had to send that back. There was a spider that had no illegal tech that was experimental. Actually, you had a couple mechs like that where if they were just looking at the tech, they're like, all of this is in the battle mech manual, so I'm fine. Like, well, yes, except for no, because on the mall it's listed as experimental and that's not allowed. So we had a few of those. And then some people, more than one, just put on, had mechs with tech like chaff pods, which are fantastic. Chaff pods are amazing, but they're also experimental.
ECM,
yeah. They're like woods and ECM and anti-missile system.
I don't even know what mech comes with those standard.
I forget. I could go back through my list, but I know that there's at least 2 of them out there because I saw them twice
from 2 separate lists. Gosh. That's funny, but
there's mechs like the Charger C, which man should be experimental, but are not totally legal, and they were that an amazing. Several mech lists had that mech. It was an expensive mech, but it did its work. Every single list that had it.
All right, so the first list, so for my first game, I got to play Scott Bomer from scotsgameroom.com, and I...
2/3 of your games are against Scott.
Yeah, no, it's actually hilarious. I was like, I literally heard the announcements like, Josh, you're playing Scott, and I just smile. Not because I knew I was going to beat Scott, but because I knew I was going to have a fun first game. And the entire vibe of a tournament is set at the first game. Like, you want that to be casual, fun, cool, and have a good time.
It was nice because I knew that I wasn't going to have to pay attention super hard to that whole end of the table because, those guys know what they're doing.
2 professional players, except Josh. He's going to ask questions because he forgets how to play Battletech on a weekly basis. But I only asked a few questions on game 1. I can't remember which one, but I asked him. But yeah, so Scott took I want to say a 3/3 Black Marauder. Like, literally, he painted a Black Marauder.
Oh, it looked amazing too. It was very cool. It was modded. It looked like it had extra bits on it. It was a creepy looking Black Marauder.
Oh yeah, very nasty. And that had 2 clan ERPPCs and a silver bullet Gauss rifle. So it was there to party. Scott also had a pirate themed entourage of a urban mech with hardened armor and snub-nosed PPC, a shadow cat, and a re-engineered lasered blackjack. So I knew I was going to have a tough time for this. And mission 1 was you each had 4 hidden objectives that you got to place, and you got to place technically 2 hidden mechs. The problem was not the problem. And the objective of the game is I have to reveal his objectives, then walk or run or jump past them to retrieve them, and then get them over to my side of the board and survive with that unit.
Right, because they were not physical objectives; they were data points that you could download when you got close to them. So you had to get close enough to download them. You had to reveal them to get a point, and then you could get close enough to download them and then bring them back to your side to upload them for more points.
Yeah. So this mission fully called for Beagle active probes, or in my case,
anyone with a Bloodhound
yeah,
had a huge advantage.
Yeah,
huge advantage.
It was too easy with a Bloodhound. Like that, I felt bad as soon as I read that, and then I was like, I looked and I was like, oh, a Bloodhound's range is 8, not 4 in each direction, not a radius of 8, not a radius. No, wait,
well, it's a radius of 17, or diameter of 17.
Holy smokes!
Yeah,
it's a radius of 8, diameter of 17.
There you go. It's been a while since my geometry class. So yeah, so essentially
It's a map.
Turn 1, I jump my Off Scout into the middle of his board, of his map sheet, and I literally reveal all 4 of his objectives. And so turn 1, I have 4 objectives. The other thing is I reveal his 2 hidden mechs, the Marauder and the Urban mech, that are hiding in woods waiting for me. Yeah. So I kind of deployed most of my guys on the line. I hid my Raijin and I hid my Off Scout on the off chance that I would see where he went with that and then jump the Off Scout. What ended up happening is I felt a little safe once I saw that it was this Marauder and a Mech. I jumped the Off Scout revealed. I ran my Exterminator dead center, like just trying to get as deep into his map as I could. And I was like, okay, Greyhound, Legacy, and the hidden Raijin, you're going to play defense. He sent his Shadowcat to try to score reveal my objectives, and he got 2 of them the first turn. I was like, okay, that's okay. I'm up. I've got an advantage. I know where all of yours are. You only know where 2 of mine is. The problem is I tried chasing down his Shadowcat with my Greyhound, and he just started nailing it in the same location. I was like, oh gosh. So turn, I want to say 1 or 2, my entire left side is just stripped armor-wise. I'm TSMing, I'm supercharging, I'm chasing it, and I think by the end of it, I had 7 internal structure on my left torso left. And I was like, I can't win. I can't win the Greyhound versus Shadowcat fight. So I'm just going to let him reveal my objectives. And that's when he starts pushing up the Blackjack. My Raijin then reveals itself and starts chasing after it from the rear. I do get 3 good pulse laser hits into its rear. I get internal, but I don't do anything, I want to say. I just strip the armor. But then he fails his PSR. He falls. He hits his own gyro. Yeah. So
there were a lot of gyro hits and double gyro hits this tournament. Like a lot. A whole lot.
So we don't play with no floating crits in the classic tournament days.
Right. This tournament had no optional rules, and floating crit is an optional rule.
Steve's just like staring at the screen like, no floating crits.
I look, of all the optional rules, I think floating crits make it more fun. I like that rule, mostly because, getting hit in the gyro over and over again, I find a frustrating experience. But, it
happens.
Yeah, it happens.
I'm fine playing it either way. I got no problems either way at all.
Yeah. It's fine when that's how it is. It's not fine when you decide at the table, like, oh, are we playing that way? It's like, well, if we don't, it screws me over. You just don't take mechs with ammunition in the center torso. That's all you do.
Yeah. Put it in the head. It's safer there.
So I, like I said, my Off Scout has revealed, so it's going to steal an objective. My Exterminator is also running around stealing one of the other objectives, and the Legacy is duking it out against the Marauder and the Urban mech. This is where the amount of tanking that a stupid hardened armor Urban mech can do outweighs the damage my entire Legacy in medium range can do.
Hardened armor is no joke.
No, it was not. Like, I was hitting everything, and it's like, cool, your MML SRMs, might do 7 damage. Like, that's it. Maybe total, because each SRM does 1 blip of armor, not 2.
Oh, that's so rough to get around to. And like, you're not going to plan on fighting hardened armor, so you're not going to bring re-engineered lasers. Not normally.
I decided I would just risk it. There's only a few mechs that I would worry about, and it's the hammerheads mainly, and that doesn't put out as much damage. So they are tanks; they are not offensive. That's what hardened armor is.
They were out there in the tournament, and so were re-engineered lasers. By the way, they were definitely out there as well.
So by the next turn, Scott has revealed all of my objectives. I've grabbed 2 of his and working on the 3rd. His Blackjack does stand up, and he moves it 1 space to the last of my revealed objectives. I then walk my Raijin carefully to the back of the blackjack, and I run the full 14 hexes the Greyhound can to the blackjack, and it's like, cool. I've got 2 of his objectives. He currently only has 2 of mine. So right now we're tied. What I need to do is I need to kill something. We do enough damage in the shooting phase to the blackjack. It fails its PSR. It falls down again. The Greyhound puts its TSM super kick through the CT of the blackjack, killing it.
That'll do it.
That's all I need. That's all I need. Next turn, it is a race for who can get the most objectives off onto the other side, because this is last turn. So he has 2. I have 2, and I've just grabbed the 3rd. But what I have to do is I have to run it past this Black Marauder with 2 3/3 with 2 Clanier PVCs at Gunnery 3. I was like, this is scary.
Yep, got to make that sanity check.
Yeah, really. So I supercharge the Exterminator, and I just run past it I run at 9, and I give 1 turn, because I'm like, don't shoot my rear. The Exterminator is tanky enough that I can tank the shots as long as he doesn't double hit me in the same location. I also run all my mechs to try to kill his Shadow Cat, to like, okay, if I kill his thing, then that doesn't matter because I get 1 off anyways. So he shoots, he does a lot of Pharaoh Lamb, he does a lot of Silver Bullet Goss. He does not hit any locations that had already been touched with that. And I was like, that's what I needed. So that game ends 10-8 for me.
A little bit of luck never hurts.
Yeah, that was a great game. The Urban Mech did not die. I think by the end of it, the Legacy shooting it had just taken off one of its arms. That is the most it could do in like 3 returns. Should I have shot the Black Marauder? Probably not. But this was the one game where the Legacy was really just there to tank, like to stop people from just walking across the edge of the board. So it didn't really have a purpose on this game. Yeah. Denim, did you have any like questions that people might have had on game 1, like gameplay that you saw?
Not really. I had already pre-printed out sheets for hidden unit rules, so those were pretty much covered. A lot of questions were, I'm just confirming the range of the Bloodhound probe, and I'm like, yes, it's really that much. things like that. So there was general questions that I had to field for that. In general, there was a lot of people who got 8 or higher on that game, which is good because the max number of points you can get is 12. So it's nice to see games where people are getting close to that score. That tells me that the scoring is actually done pretty well.
Yeah.
It did turn out that people with Bloodhound active probes did do significantly better on average than others.
But that's what you'd expect given the game mode.
Yeah. I always feel like it's almost impossible to balance around a probe game because it's like if you have a probe, it's easy. If you don't have a probe, it's impossible. Like there's no middle-ish ground for anything with a probe. So, but it was fun playing with hidden units, like in a competitive setting. Like I said, I revealed mine in the movement phase of turn 1. I just like hidden deployed it. Like it was hidden, but I instantly revealed it. I just didn't want them to know where my Scout with a Beagle active probe or Bloodhound active probe would be. Yeah,
there were a few good moments with the point blank shots coming out, and some sad ones where an MRM, the catapult with 2 MRM 30s gets its hidden point blank shot off, hits with everything, and just perfectly spreads all of the damage around, just everywhere. Not a single location was hit twice.
Yeah, my Raijin was exactly where I knew he would want to move, but the problem was he jumped, and jumping over a hidden unit does not activate it for point blank shots.
You have to land in or next to, and if you happen to be jumping into that hex, it does push the mech that's hiding out first.
Good old displacement rules.
Yep. Which is fun if somebody's hiding on like a level 3 cliff, then you're like, whoops. Sorry.
No. But no, game 1 was fun. Like I said, it's always great to play Scott. So then we set up for game 2. Woo! And this one, you kind of watched my table, and I was like, what did I do wrong game one to get Didim?
Oh, you were more like in the middle of that whole line, so I could see everybody to the left and the right, and I just had a good view of everybody. And you were playing a very, very new player. Yeah. I believe that person had only played 4 games previously, something like that. This was one of their first actual games with other people.
Hooray, so it's against me.
Denim is babysitting the newbies so Josh doesn't tear his throat out.
Yeah, I got to keep an eye on things like that.
You know, I actually struggle against playing new players, not because they do things wrong, but because they do things that, you don't expect them to do, like the non-optimal. Yeah, it's the mass. What's scarier, the master or the amateur that knows just enough? It's like you can't predict the amateur's movements.
It's why professional Street Fighter players still manage to lose against, their kid brother who's just button mashing. Because button mashing is just so random.
But yeah, so I fought Dylan, and Dylan had a Blood Asp. The two
Good mech.
Yeah.
Did they have the plastic one? Did they get the Kickstarter plastic?
Oh, he did not? Okay.
No.
Bummer.
I know. I was like, oh, no. I think they were too new. Like, they don't even know. They were not in plane when the Kickstarter came out. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But so Dylan had the Blood Asp with 2 re-engineered large lasers. Good comeback of the re-engineered. An improved heavy Gauss rifle. So that one, big boy. A Black Knight 9 with the hatchet. A regular Mongoose. The AC5 Wolverine, and a Hunchback 2C. And I was like, this is a wild list. Like, it's some big damage, but then like other things that do like no damage. So I was definitely scared, but this mission, I liked this mission. We each got 2 objectives to place on the field, and if there was a mech that ended its turn prone on them, it pushed it. It's
not prone.
That's what I meant. Not prone. That is not prone. Conscious and not prone. What is the opposite of prone? Standing? No. Yes. No. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. So a mech that is ending its turn standing and conscious on an objective pushes it based on its tonnage. Like, so I'm trying to push my objective that I stand on off my opponent's edge of the board. And light mechs do 1 hex. Mediums do 2, heavies do 3, assaults do 4. So this one you want bigger mechs sitting on objectives.
That's fun. I mean, at least the bigger ones move it further.
Yeah.
Right? This mission got more comments of this was some of the most fun BattleTech I've ever played in my life comments on several tables.
Oh, that's great.
People had fun once they got into this mission. People had a lot of fun.
It's because it promoted brawling, and everyone has fun brawling.
Brawling is the best.
Brawling and tanking. Oh, I just had to sit here. Oh, okay. No matter what, I have to move only 2, 3, or 4.
Your tactic was an interesting one. I will tell you that.
Which tactic was that?
The crash onto an objective, go prone, break my leg off so I can't stand. Now he has to waste turns trying to kill a mech, which can take a while. And until they do, you can't move into a hex that has a prone mech on there without DFA is the only option.
Yeah.
To move a mech off of that in that situation.
I felt like a master artist when that scenario happened. I was like, I've done this recently. I'm pretty sure Denim retaught me this, but it's great. So I've deployed my 2 objectives. This was a hard map. Like, the map cost me more than I wanted it to. This was the desert with the base and the hot springs.
It's called Mines. No, it's called the Mines.
Okay.
It's from the Desert map pack. It's got a heavy metal pool of water on one side, and then a series of roads leading into sublevels that go into tunnels which you can't enter on the other end, surrounded by a ring of large hills.
I did a grinder on that map. That's a
Yes.
great map. I love that map.
No, that map is terrible if you're deploying and then trying to get down.
I enjoyed watching Josh's like just the blood drains from his face when he's like, where am I going to put these things? How am I going to get it across the map? I know how fast this legacy goes. He's not going over the hill.
Yeah, that was my problem is I could literally do not have the movement points for my assault to put it anywhere and get it.
You never got even halfway to an objective with the legacy.
Nope.
That was the funny part.
And he just had a road like from his side. He's like, oh, I just put the blood S on the road, moved it 4 or 5 hexes. And I was like, screw you, man. Your clan assault.
Go fast.
I have to climb up, go through woods, jump down into a sub-level, then run. And yeah. But anyways.
Broken gyro.
We'll get there. So I deployed my 2. They're pretty much like I've deployed 1 that was in good, even open terrain. I was like, I can get an exterminator on this turn 1. Easy. Boom. Done. Other one I put far edge. I was like, okay, this one's a little tougher, but guess what? I have a very fast mech that doesn't need jump jets that can get there. So I was like, the 2 that I'm placing, I control. I was like, I've got that. He places the 1 right in the road. I was like, okay, I can't get to that one like easily. So I'm going to put my blockers, my defensive units on that. And then he places the other one in depth 1 water. And I was like, this man's kneecaps are up for sale. Yeah. You know why? Because I have to land a mech in that water, have it be standing and conscious, and then it gets to move. I was like,
spoiler, he doesn't.
Yeah. Turn 1. I can't get to it in time. But turn 2, the Raijin goes in for the aerial drop into the water. Because, quote, you can't run into water, but you can jump jet into the hex and cut your jets and land gracefully.
Right. You don't jump into water, you jump over water and crash.
I crashed. I fell on my back. I did not breach because, technically it was water and we did.
But I was watching that roll.
Yeah, Denim was like, roll the breach, Josh. And I was like, come on, wait, roll the breach.
CT breach would have been hilarious.
Yeah, because it was right torso damage. I was like, oh no, Intersphere XL, don't do this to me. But no, so I crash, I fall on my back. And then he's like, cool, I'm declaring targets at you. And I was like, objection, I'm prone in Death 1 water. You get nothing with your Hunchback 2C. That was great. But that was that I was technically on that one, and by that turn, the Exterminator had ran onto it and pushed it. It's 3 hexes, and on that turn, the Greyhound had also ran onto the other sides and pushed that one 3 hexes. So I'm holding 1 and I'm pushing 2. The 4th one, there's a blood ass that's just now about like next turn it will get to it, and my legacy is just now getting down off the hill, so needing 2 more turns to get onto it. So I'm like, I'm screwed, but I'm in a good place. The next turn, thankfully, the Raijin gets up, so I'm like, okay, the Raijin will get that objective, but it will have to wait a turn. Greyhound is unfortunately receiving level difference kicks from the Wolverine. Wolverine doesn't do enough damage shooting, but it is still kicking me on my punch table, and that doesn't feel good. It's 11 damage to my right torso, 11 damage to my left arm. I was like, stop this. And I just keep kicking the objective where it's a level difference. It's like, stop. Interestingly, he puts his Hunchback 2C on the objective now. He's like, okay, well, I'm gonna own the objective. I was like, crap. I won the initiative, which means he gets to move first. Which is the one good thing. You want to lose initiative if you want to grab objectives. And the one time,
There's too many other ways to get like pushing in DFAs. Like there are ways to get somebody off of there. Yeah. But yeah. So I jump my Exterminator behind his Hunchback 2C. I was like, Hunchback 2C, that's got like no armor. I got 4 VSPs and MRM and stuff. I'm also, cooking at the temperature of this corona of the sun, but you know what? We'll deal with that problem when we get to the heat phase. He puts his blood ass onto the objective. He puts his Black Knight next to it. My brain goes into a Tournament Josh mode, and I jump my Oscout the 4 hexes I declare DFA
onto the blood ass on the objective. He puts a lot of shots in me. He fires the pretty much the entirety of the Black Knight into the Oscout, and he does 20. I fail my PSR, but I don't have to pass the DFA. I just need to land in that hex and displace the blood ass off the objective. And it felt real bad because then he's like, Denim, can I kick? Or can I declare melee with the Black Knight with a hatchet?
I mean, so watching this game, and as a TO, I can't tell people how to play it. I can't answer questions like, yes, you are absolutely not allowed to kick with that mech. But I was also screaming as loud as I could in the back of my head, take your mongoose, run it around for a +3 TMM and stop it right in front of the Raijin, who has to stand up one level lower in water to make the objective move. And that's when you kick him, hit him in the head, knock him back over. He couldn't kick there either because he wasn't close enough. Mentally, anyone in there with psychic abilities would have been getting a headache.
Oh gosh, I mean, I was getting a headache. Yeah, his Hunchback takes all of my fire. I want to say I blew his leg off, actually.
Hunchback had no leg.
Yeah, I blew a leg off, so it falls down. And I was like, darn, I wanted to kill it, not cripple it on the objective.
Right, because
that's worse.
Now it's covered by a level 1 from a lot of your mechs. So you had to keep like a mech over there to just shoot at it.
Yeah. And I was like, fine.
It was a problem.
Yeah. And the Legacy, of course, takes I want to say a through armor critical and gets a gyro hit. And I was like, oh, buddy. Like, it's got a compact gyro, but I would have taken ninja hit over the compact gyro on that one. So it falls. I've got the Oscout on the objective fallen, but it's covering the objective, preventing his assault mech from pushing it. And the Greyhound has kicked the objective up the hill one more time. So I was like, okay, going into last turn, I've got this. Last turn, Raijin kicks his objective. The Exterminator is like, the Hunchback's not getting up its leg, but I can't push up fallen back.
That objective's going nowhere.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can kill the blood ass or something. I don't know. I run it and put some VSPs, does nothing. But then he has to learn, like, okay, there's nothing he can do. He can't push my Oscar had one structure left in one of its legs. It's like, it's not dead. You did not do enough damage last turn to destroy it to get onto the objective to push it. And then the Greyhound finally pushes its objective off the field. So it was some masterful movement, but I could definitely see that if an enemy gets on the objective first, it's actually harder to get them off of it. If you take a leg off or they fail a PSR, like it's almost. It
was just funny because out of the 4 objectives, at one point 3 of them had prone mechs on top of them, which was interesting.
Yeah, I felt like this is one that I scored 5-0 because I did not let him push any objectives. But I could also see, like, that's how most games would go. Like, someone's pushing a lot and the other person's just crippled or prone or whatnot, depending on your piloting skill or damage. Was that kind of the general consistency amongst games, Denim, or?
This one, a lot of people got 5 or 6 points on this one. There was, as I recall, because I don't have the scores or anything, as I recall, someone actually got 9 points on this.
Whoa.
That was the highest scoring on there.
Was the maximum 12 for this one as well?
Maximum was 12 for all the missions,
okay.
Yes.
So that really speaks to the difficulty of scoring in this particular mission if the average was 5 to 6 points.
Right, which is incredible because I got more. This mission was amazingly fun than any of the other missions.
It's because it's brawling. People like praise. Brawling.
Well, I think the other thing is on a lot of missions, this is something we see at Southern Assault sometimes, is the games that are the most fun are when they are the closest. And when games are often close, people are not scoring points because I'm stopping you from scoring, you're stopping me from scoring. The game is neck and neck. And then time is called or the mission is over. And we had a great time, but no one got anything done. No one ran away with the game, right? So I think that's where you see a lot of lower scoring missions like that. But as long as people had a good time, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, this mission in particular, I got... there was a lot of gyro hits.
Yeah.
A lot of gyro hits this tournament. So I got a lot of questions like, can a mech with no gyro, like 2 gyro crits, can they turn in their hex? The answer is yes, they can. They can move one direction on their movement phase as long as they have movement points, because a gyro doesn't take away movement points. It just means that you can't stand. So as long as you have movement points, you're allowed to move one hex side to the right or left. And assuming that you're not missing a leg, it's considered a walk. If you're missing a leg, it's considered a run, because you only have one movement point. And if you use that movement point, it's considered running. And then we got into then when I prop my mech up, can I torso twist? The answer is no. But whichever arm that you're using, the arm goes one more hex side for its damage zone, but you can only do it with that arm. So we had a lot of gyro and propping up to fire questions.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I feel like that's just a general problem. If you ever in Battletech have to stand on or in an objective hex, like, you're going to be crippled. It's just how the game is played.
And that's one of the main reasons why these missions say that you have to be conscious and standing to score, because it's just too easy to go prone and really limit your opponent's options on what to do with you.
Yeah. So I felt like a dick for throwing the Osk out on sorry blood ass. My 35-ton Osk out has blocked you for 2 turns.
It was a fun mission to watch. There was a lot of ways that it could have gone different depending on how different. He did get a good backhand on your exterminator and hit you right in the face because you were behind him, and he had torso twisted to shoot someone else, backhanded you in the cockpit. But that was the only cockpit hit of that game.
I love how you were literally like, "Oh, you've torso twisted, so you can actually punch to the rear," and he was like, "Oh, okay."
And I didn't feel that because I wasn't telling him where to go or what to do. Yeah, I was just like, "This is a new player. He has already torso twisted." Like that was. It wasn't like oh, torso twist, so you can do this. Nope, he had already torso twisted, and he's like, "Oh well, I can't punch him," and I'm like, "Actually, you can. You said the magic word. You can absolutely backhand him in the face, and this is how you do it. These are the rules you need." And it hit, just not lethally.
Yeah, I mean, literally,
I would have felt a little bit worse if it was a lethal hit, but
Josh Snake's eyes, the consciousness for all me looking at Denim. The TO is guiding play. No, but I was thankful that you were there to guide him in what he wanted to do, but not tell him. It is a very fine line between help the new player.
Yeah, I mean, with new players, I always like to be around to make sure that the proper number of the PSRs are made at the end of each turn for all the mechs, and everybody's heat is at the right place, and everybody knows that their when their movement gets lowered, things like that. All the easy things to miss when you're in a tournament situation. And I know that not just new players, but even veteran players miss a lot of that in the heat of the moment. So,
I forgot a crit roll, and you were like, "Josh, you forgot your crit roll." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And you were like, "You took damage in your leg."
It's like you took 2 leg crits and a left torso crit, and you've only rolled one. They only got 1 leg and the left torso. You're still owed a leg crit. Yes,
that was just me keeping track of too much information at once.
Yeah, but I was hyped up on like I was on my 3rd cup of coffee and my brain was in overdrive. I was calculating everybody's rolls on all the tables in front of me simultaneously.
That's right. I did catch you getting to hit roll wrong for me. You were like, "You need an X," and I was like, "No, I need worse." And you were like, "Oh yeah, you're right.
Worse is better." I mean, worse. I mean, yeah. I saw like everything was in Matrix code. That whole room. Yes.
So my 3rd game was on the top table against Corbin, and I hate being on the top table, but I also hate the swamp map I'm on. Swampy. Yeah, so Corbin brought I want to say a 3-4 bar guest, but it might have even been a 3-3. That's the ERPBC UAC 20 quad mech.
Oh.
Yeah, so Corbin's list had 3 quad.
Yeah.
3 quad mechs and a spider.
Mm-hmm.
Did he only have 4 mechs or 5
Just
mechs?
4 mechs.
Okay, then 3 quads and a spider.
Wild. Too many legs. Far too many legs for that many
So
mechs.
many legs.
Yeah, I think you printed out, here's the quad mech quick rules, because anyone who plays him needs to know what they do.
I made sure that there was a list of quad mech rules available to everyone who needed it. Yes.
Yeah. So anyways, 3-4 Bargus. I want to say a 3-4 Jaguar. I want to say this Jaguar 2 with tower computer, ER mediums, medium pulses, and machine guns. So that was like an 8-12. I was like, ugh. The Scorpion, I want to say C with MMLs and some other gun. Yeah, I'm remembering game 3 less as well, but it's game 3.
I can tell you that in just 1 second.
you're fine.
I've got all of the lists.
It's okay. It doesn't really matter because, yeah. And then he took the VSP Spider. And like I said, these are all like gunnery 3 with low piloting. So I outnumbered and
They were all 3-3s or 3-4s.
Oh, yeah, it felt bad. But this was the weirdest mission. And I tried reading this like 3 times to try to understand it, and I still never fully.
And it had to have been because it was game 3, because this was the one. I understood this one pretty easily. I did on the other side of the hidden unit sheet have some movement profiles just in case people got slightly confused, just so that there was absolutely no ambiguity about how these things were allowed to move. And I did have some questions, and I did notice that several people misinterpreted one of the bullet points. And I don't know if it's just because it was late in the day or because the defenders, everybody here is competitive. And I can see some people saying, oh, well, if I don't say anything, maybe nobody will notice. So I was keeping track and making sure, because there were certain points where if a truck was pinned to the side of the map, they were just like, oh, I guess I won't move that truck anymore. But the rules were it had to move away from an enemy mech that was adjacent to it, even if it meant moving off the map. And if it did so, it got destroyed. And I saw one person, and it was super, super bad feels about this. But I saw one person, I'm like, oh, there are 3 trucks right here. This one goes here. This one has to go here and then off the map. That one has to go here and off the map. And that one has to go there, and then off the map. It was like that feeling in checkers when somebody who thinks they're doing really well, and then the other person goes, jump, 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 jump,
man.
king. And like 8 of your pieces disappear off the board all at once. It was... But I tried to keep an eye on everybody and make sure that nobody was getting away with that. So it was my whole thing where I'm the bad guy, I'm the TO, so blame me. But yeah, there were ways to pin the enemy trucks and force them off the map, which is the good way to do it if you're planning that, because the trucks had 50 hit points each.
Whoa!
So they were not easy to just destroy.
Yeah, it's a pretty beefy truck.
Yeah. So the mission was we each had 6 trucks, and maybe I'll cut this and put it in front of Denim. The mission was, just for understanding purposes. So the mission was we each had 6 trucks, and we had to get them across the long battle mat from our board edge to off the enemy's board edge.
Right. So short edge to short edge.
Yep.
Like you had to go from the short edge across all the way across the longest way to the other short edge. Yeah.
And they could not enter a hex that was adjacent to an enemy. And
Correct.
if they were, because this was the weird thing, you had to move them after all of your mechs. Like that was when they legally were moved. So you moved all of your mechs, and your opponent moved all their mechs, and then the trucks moved. And the trucks just moved 7 hexes with no regards to any terrain. So they were not trucks; they were just objectives. But for naming purposes,
but they were based on trucks.
Yeah.
So they could float on water. They could go right through trees. You didn't slow that down.
Magic trucks.
They had a TMM of 2. It didn't matter what terrain they were in. So if they were inside a woods hex, you ignored that woods hex, just like a BSP
I was
vehicle.
like, it felt like a hybrid.
Yeah. Objective BSP / truck
thing
golem of things.
Yeah.
So even if the truck was forced to stay still, it was just driving around in circles to keep that 2 TMM. Like it was never considered immobile. But yeah, and it was It always moved last so that physical attacks were impossible unless you pinned it, and you couldn't do anything that displaced it like a DFA. You couldn't do that to it.
Yeah. How many times did I ask if I could push them?
At least 3 or 4, and the answer was always the same.
Yeah. But it didn't matter because, well, yeah. So I'm fighting Corbin, and because this was the first like long ways game, the first one we could deploy anywhere on our edge. This one was the first you have to walk on because you're like escorting the trucks. So like first turn, I don't shoot anything. Corbin doesn't shoot anything. Turn 2, I jump my Oscout up front, and I'm like, cool. I'm gonna try to bait some little stuff. He runs his Jaguar and his Spider to try to shoot my Oscout. And I was like, Oscout, you're taking the bait on this one. I run the Exterminator up. Exterminator shooting 1 hex away from its Jaguar. I need 6s hit with VSPs. I only hit 1. I was like, I go full heat. I go full coolant pod levels of heat. And I only hit 1 VSP at short range. And I was like, I don't even know why I try anymore, Exterminator.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. But I want to say mask his Scorpion up because he's like, okay, I'm going to try to cut up the middle because I sent all of my trucks on one side and he sent most of his on the other. His champion goes mask. He runs into woods. I run my Greyhound, which is activated TSM and supercharger as far as it can. So it's like 1 hex away. And I'm going to do the math right now. Gunnery 4, I ran. So 6. Look how much I struggled with that. 6. I'm hot. So 7. There's woods that I'm shooting through. 8. Woods that he's in. 9. He has Timum of 3. 10, 11, 12s. Down 2 for pulse. I need 10s on the large pulse laser to hit. I want to say a 10. My next hit, I roll location. I get the head. I do 9 points of large pulse laser to the Scorpion's head. The Scorpion only has 8 head armor. I get internal. I roll the crit. I get an 11. The first one, I get life support. We just had our head, getting ahead with BattleTech episode. I was like, come on. I roll a 4, reroll. I roll another 4, reroll. And I was like, do it. 3, cockpit, instant kill. First roll.
Got him.
So now we are down to 3 versus how many did you have? 5?
Yeah, I had 5 versus his 3 now. And I was like, ugh. Problem is, his trucks are still too fast. I've sent my Raijin, my Legacy out to try to kill trucks, and they're skill 4 gunnery. They just missed most of their shots, even with VSPs and Emmels, medium pulse lasers. I'm just not hitting because they're still far enough away. So, yeah, I'm like, cool, I can't kill trucks, but I do see my Oscout, which is still standing after the massacring of Spider VSPs and Jaguar pulse lasers on it. Like, it has internal in a lot of places, but it stays standing.
It was sad because that Scorpion had mask. It was fast, and it could take out a truck every 2 turns.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Like every 2 turns, just make a truck disappear, and it was just gone.
Deleted. Thanos snapped style. Like, I didn't, like, it was literally the first roll with the Greyhound for that. It's like, head, dead, fine. But yeah, so then he has 2 of his trucks on to the side, like hugging the board edge. And I was like, well, I think I can legally stop them from moving because if they move, they have to go off the board. So I jump my Oscout and I pin them right next to him. And this is where we did not realize when they moved, they would have to move off the board and destroy themselves.
That turn, I was off helping some other table, so I wasn't even there for that. But when I came back and noticed that,
you were
by the way, that truck goes off now.
It wasn't just 1; it was 2. He double stacked. It was
a stack of 2. Yeah.
I was like, At that point, it had got him brawly because he's trying to free his trucks. Because I think if you need to actually move them perfectly to get them across the board, like they can only spend 1 turn not moving or not moving perfectly. So he sent his Barghest and his Spider and his Jaguar still. And I send my Greyhound. I get a good kick. I put the Exterminator in. I'm internal on it, but the Barghest is still up. Next turn, I do move the Greyhound to try to get a level difference to try to get it. This is where I technically already put my dice down but I did not realize that there was not a level difference. So I was like, wait, I thought,
Oh yeah, you looked at me and said, "Can I do that?" And I'm like, "Dude, legally, your dice is down. That is between you and your opponent. It is his call, yes or no. I have nothing to do with it. I'm going to walk away while you guys figure it out."
Yeah, it was one of those like, wait, I thought you were on this level and not this, because this is the problem with hexes not showing what the level is. I do not like touching opponents' mechs, and
to peek underneath, you mean?
Yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah.
And the swamp map does not like really clearly state, especially when it's the farthest thing away from me. So I was like, hey, I know I did just put my dice down like just now, and then I was like, hey, what level are you on? So he did let me go back. I did.
He was nice.
He was nice. I then moved my Greyhound from the one hex to the next hex to it, which did give him back shots from the Jaguar onto it. I did go internal on the Greyhound, but it didn't do anything. I then do the kick and do 24 points into his right torso on the punch table, taking out the Intersphere XL engine. So I've killed the Scorpion with the Greyhound. I've then killed the Bargus with the Greyhound. And at that point, we just kind of like, okay, there's nothing really he can do. There's nothing I can do. I can't catch any more of his trucks, and he can't catch mine. So at that point, we call it, that one was an 8-4 win. So that was a scary game because quads and the high skill difference, like I'm 4-5 or 4-4.
Oh yeah, there was no PSR that you were going to give him that he was going to need more than a 4 ever, like no matter what.
But he did fail the 1. Like,
ouch.
Yeah, when I kicked them with the Greyhound, he did technically fall. I was like, oh, you needed a 4 and you rolled a 3 on that. And it was like, oh. So it can happen. It just wasn't happening often.
So yours ended up 8-4, right?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone got above a 9, but several people got 9s on this one.
I could see that. Yeah. But this was the hard list because I think the trucks were very fast and my shooting was not that good, especially with them moving last. Because this
was all about creating a line, blocking their trucks, or steering them to where you want them to be. I saw a lot of different plays. Some of them were genius, and I was It was a very tactical. This one felt like you were playing a game of chess.
Yeah, that was kind of the impression I got from listening to people. They were like, "There's no point in me even shooting your mechs." Like I'm corralling objectives, funneling them towards things, and hoping that they are not behind terrain for me to shoot them. And it's like, and they were like, "Yeah." The impression I got was they were like, this was the least interactive one. Like you could choose to interact or you could choose just to focus on objectives. And I just chose, I'd say I got lucky and just exploited.
You were the only one who got BV kills because of, say a shot to the cockpit, turn 2, and then, how much 24 point kicks, stuff like that. That's, you were the only one who killed mechs who won their mission 3.
Wow. I mean, it makes sense because I was like, I honestly was like, I don't know how to win this one, like mentally. Like it is.
Yeah, well, you came in like for that one, you came in like 5th or 6th.
Yeah.
For that. So
that's respectable though. I still won.
Yeah, it was respectable. I'm just saying that like the winners did not go after mechs at all.
Me, I'm going to kill mech, maybe win objective. But it was still good. But yeah, so we finished that one up and. Shockingly, somehow I came in second for battle tactics because I did not get the most scoring, but I did go 3 wins, and there was only one other person with 3 wins, and they got 27 points. So I felt pretty good about that.
That's great.
Denim, do you know what they took for their list?
Yeah, I do. William's list. William Crow came in first. I'm sure we'll go over that in a bit. Thank you. He had a Hammerhead at 4-5. The obligatory Dasher P, also at 4-5. A Cicada 4A with VSPs and re-engineered lasers at 4-5.
I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah. Sentry, also with a VSP at 4-5. and then a Charger C at 5-4. And the Charger C, it's got 4 improved heavy medium lasers, an ER medium laser, supercharger, mask, targeting computer, Angel ECM, and a Bloodhound active probe.
Wow.
It's the one-stop shop. Like that is the mech that is perfect for these missions.
So yeah, when you've got a 7,500 BV army and one mech is almost 2,800 BV, but it did the work. Like it the other mechs are there just to support it. He had a brilliant tactic for that mission, because I was also watching that. I was very interested in what was going on there. The opponent had started moving the trucks up there, and he surrounded them in a diamond position and used 3 of his mechs to just stop all 6 of the opponent's trucks while his truck moved. So the other guy's mechs had to come over here to try and break that diamond that was locking them in, while his trucks just got to zoom off the map. It was just focus fire. One truck deleted, one truck deleted, one truck deleted. He did not score a perfect 12, but he got the most legitimate truck kills, and without shoving them off of the map.
Me, I just shove them off the map. I don't know how to shoot this, but I do know how to push it. Not pushing, just forcing it to drive off a cliff.
Yeah.
You have one legal move, and that's to die. But no, it was a good tournament. I think I had a lot of fun, even me struggling, because I am a technical reader, so me reading the missions, I struggled. But we had a lot of, I don't want to say day of FAQ, but like you and Dustin.
We had 2 things that needed to be changed, and unfortunately, one of the changes one of the changes when we copy pasted something, the word "not" got re-entered in there. Oops. which threw some things off for game 1. That was intentionally there to make Bloodhound active probes not as powerful, because originally it was you didn't need line of sight to locate an objective, whereas with probes you need line of sight to locate a hidden mech. And we're like, oh well, the objectives you don't, you just know where they are through the terrain as long as the probe is in range. We're like, nope, you need to have line of sight to that. But the sheet that was on everyone's table had the word "not" in there still. And we're like, oh no. But by that time, it was like far too late.
It's turn 2.5. Yeah.
Far too late. Like the damage had been done with everybody who had a Bloodhound.
Yeah. Bloodhound, turn 1. I've revealed. You can't unreveal them. The reveal is already out of the box.
I liked mission 1. As far as a mission goes, I thought that it was a little bit too busy for a tournament mission, though. It required more time, and we ended up giving it 15 minutes more than any other mission. But it did require more time to prepare, more reading comprehension. So good mission, took too long for a tournament. That's my opinion.
I think Sam, when I asked him, he said make one objective hidden and the others just static. And I was like, that seems better. So then you're like, okay, I don't need a full Bloodhound probe. I can just use a regular probe, and by process of elimination, know generally where it might be, but I don't know. But there's 2 hidden mechs, so could get shot on my way finding it. Yeah. This, like I said, this is my first time using like full hidden objectives, full probe, full ECM, like the full hidden smorgasbord. So
I personally think that mission 3 should have been mission 2, because people were more alert and the reading comprehension problem wouldn't have popped up. I think that mission 2 should have been the last mission, because it was the easiest to understand, and it was just everybody meet in the middle and fight until somebody pushes through. So I think the order could have been better, but overall, I liked all of the missions. Being that I tested them in not tournament situation, like I didn't have the time crunch or anything. They all had a fun aspect to them.
Yeah. I just hate escort
and the scoring
missions.
the scoring was really good all the way through. We didn't have the problem like we did last year, where one mission, like if you scored 3 out of 12, it was amazing. So
I think I scored 1, maybe 2 that game last year. But yeah, I just hate escort missions, like escort trucks off the board, and I was like, trucks, you're on your own. I'm killing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, playing that game and watching it played, that's. I think that the best tactic is to ignore the enemy mechs, don't worry about your trucks, and just use your units to force the opponent's trucks off the map and let his units come to you to defend their trucks, and just trust your armor to keep you alive for the 6 turns it takes to force theirs off the map.
Yeah, I could have played that better, but I was like,
It as a game 3, everybody's brain was mush.
Yeah.
So should we go through the winners?
Yeah, please. You have that more than I do.
I do have the winners. I don't have all the scores or points, but I do have the winners. I know that William Crow got best tactician, followed by some guy named Josh Varga.
Sure.
So congratulations. And then followed closely by Corbin, very closely. Like if that game had gone different, you guys would have been reversed. That was a close game.
Oh yeah.
So followed by Corbin. And then best painted went to a listener and a friend of the podcast, Matt. He had the teal
sea foxes, I think.
I know they were very, very pretty.
Yeah.
Very pretty. It was one of the teal ones, so it was either Rosselhag or Sea Fox. He'll be mad at me that I don't remember which ones it is, but I just know it was a very beautiful teal.
I have pictures. I will post them.
Yes.
Best
second place for painted was Thomas. And third place was Cayman.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we had best sportsman. And this is the one at the beginning that I thought was funny because there was a lot of ties for best sportsman. So the tiebreaker went to the person who did the most damage to the enemy forces. And our friend and yours, Jason Hansa, dominated, getting over 10,600 BV destroyed throughout the day, which meant that on average, he killed half of his opponent's list every game.
That man is a menace.
Yeah, no.
He is a menace, but he does it with a smile on his face. It was just carnage from start to finish.
We have to pause and be like, there was also another highlight for Jason for the day that I've never seen, but I wanted, I want to experience how a person feels doing that. Denim, if you wouldn't.
I was across the room and I heard this guttural roar and I'm like, oh no. And like, it's just either something really good just happened or something really, really bad just happened. And I'm like going to call the bouncers to escort somebody out because it was a vicious roar. And what happened was that Jason took a pilot hit, fell, got 2 ammo crits.
Oh no.
So that's 5. No, did he not fall? Maybe he didn't fall. I think sorry. I know that he took a pilot hit and then he took 2 ammo crits. In fact, I know for a fact that he didn't fall because if he went unconscious, he would have, and he rolled each one a 3, a 5, a 7, a 10, an 11, like one back to back, and he made all 5 consciousness rolls right in a row. So
wow.
The beginning of that turn, 0 pilot damage. End of that turn, 5 pilot damage, totally conscious, which means he did not fall, which means he did not take that 6 pilot damage, taking him out of the game. And that pilot survived till the end of the game.
So that pilot was alive for that entire nightmare ride.
Alive is a very, technical term.
I only need one arm to pilot this mech. It was amazing. And it's just the roar of happiness when he got that 11. It was very loud. Everybody looked up, everybody cheered. It was fantastic. It was amazing.
And that's why we do tournaments. For those fun experiences that we get out of the competitive play.
It was fantastic. And I don't want to get this wrong, but I don't actually know who got second and third for best sportsman
because they were tied.
There were so many ties, and some of them won other things.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
but
we were all good sports.
What's it? So me and you actually talked about this because BattleTech players are so nice that we need to fix how to do sportsmanship because everyone just gives each other 10s because it's like, yeah, I'd play this person again. They're great.
But I enjoy it. Like, I don't know if it's the perfect system, but taking the best sportsman and making the tiebreaker the one who destroyed most of the opponent's mechs and still got a perfect score for sportsman, like that's saying something.
Yeah.
Like when you can destroy somebody's force and have them smile at the end and say, "Man, you're a fun person to play with." That's doing it right.
That's not a bad system, right? Not only did you tan people's hides, but you still let them have a good time with it, right?
Yeah.
That's what's important.
So if you did get second and third in sportsmanship, if you're on the Discord, just let us know so I can properly congratulate you. I do apologize. It is late now though, and my notes are a mess. So
how many total people were there?
We had 26 signed up, but we did lose a few to either not feeling well, not being able to make it, or coming out and playing a few matches and then not feeling well because hydrate or dihydrate. Mm-hmm. I mean, you've heard it here. If you try and make it through 6 hours of playing BattleTech and you don't have enough water and you didn't get enough sleep the night before and you didn't have some protein, you're not going to feel well. I think at the end of the day, we ended up with 21 left.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But everybody got some awesome prizes. We had a lot of prizes from Fortress Miniatures and Games and our friend Thunderhead. And of course, Hangar 18 hosted the whole thing, and they were amazing. So we had a lot of fun.
Yeah. Love all those stores and those people. Yeah. So thank you, Fortress, Thunderhead, and Hangar 18, Brian, for supporting another local tournament that went great, and we can't wait to do one next year.
And we will. Again, it's going to be in the fall, so that so we don't have the 90-something degree weather. Because I think it worked out better this time. It is a little bit close to Southern Assault, but I think
it's prep. It's mental
almost
prep.
A month.
Yeah,
3 weeks.
Yeah,
a month, almost a month. So it should be fine.
Plus, it's classic. It's a totally different game.
It is a totally different game. Totally different. I agree with that.
This is an SAT. The other one is a. I don't know.
A lot of Scantrons.
Multiple choice versus SAT. But yeah, Steve, are you going to come down next year for a classic tournament? You've done 12 hours of Grinder. You can do 6 hours of classic.
Maybe. I'd like to. Honestly, if I had the time and inclination, I would absolutely do so. But there's work obligations, family obligations, and I can really only stick my wife with the kids so often, so frequently before I start getting some flack.
It is a process.
Well, we want to take a break, and then we'll get into some Alpha Strike archetypes of list.
Sounds good.
Warning, damage critical. Ammunition depleted.
Welcome to the beaches of Canopus. Away from the chaos of the battlefield awaits rest and relaxation of a quality unsurpassed by the successor states. Trade in your cooling vest and Neuro helmet for a cold martini and a nap in the sun. Or perhaps try your luck at one of our sphere-renowned casinos. Indulge in free culture and arts in our renowned galleries while expanding your palate with tastes local and foreign at authentic high-class restaurants and bars. Everyone knows that the magistracy is unsurpassed in pleasure and relaxation. Book a transcendent experience with an agent near you and return to your life truly refreshed.
All right, we are back, and by special request, I guess we're doing Alpha Strike archetypes because we're going to have probably the biggest event coming up next month. So it was in our best interest to go over some things that we may see there and just general conversational not definitions, but things we may talk about that may need a little bit more expanding on. So we're going to talk about a few lists, what they are, like if you wanted to build them, how to do that, and how to fight them, and what's kind of like the rock to their scissors or the paper. Because, as much as we hate to admit it, Alpha Strike is kind of a Warhammer beat Locust kind of game.
So you're saying that we could look at this like what's the current meta type of thing? So some archetypes are more popular than others in certain years.
Oh, definitely. Oh, definitely. But also like, hey, this one's going to struggle at these kinds of things, and you need to plan accordingly when you're building to that kind of list type. So
absolutely no list.
I'm not super familiar with Alpha Strike, but it's got to be pretty similar to Classic. So let's start going over some of these things, and we'll see if I have anything cool to say about any of them.
Sure.
Yeah. Of course, we have to write down the old bread and butter, the Brawler Alpha Strike list.
So, take the biggest mechs you can with the most armor and most damage output, and don't put any fancy toys on there.
Why would you need fancy toys when you have gun? Apply a gun to enemy forehead. That's all you need.
That's it.
If the enemy can't walk, the enemy can't take points.
So Brawler list. I like them personally because they're low brain power, and they are just really apply bucket of dice to my problems. I don't need big brain tactics. I don't need to know this enemy mech has this special ability. No, I'm just going to bury them in dice and let the laws of statistics settle them out.
I think positioning is very important for a brawler type. I think they can be defeated pretty easily, if I'm not mistaken, by people getting into, say, rear arcs where you can't fire back. I think if your whole tactic is to apply damage to the enemy, then I'm not saying you necessarily need fast mechs, but you really need to be aware of where you're putting them to make sure that you're taking advantage of them and they aren't getting into your blind spots.
100%.
The best counter to a brawler list is to deny them targets. Without having anything to shoot, they can't apply their 5-6 damage per mech to the enemy.
So would it be fair to put skirmishers in with brawlers?
Yeah, Brawler is much more of just a grand encompassing. You do not have any special abilities. You can have a fast brawling list, light mechs that just do damage. It's really just the fact that you're not there to, execute a grand strategy and, outweigh them with special abilities or...
Then I have decided that is the type of list that I tend to build for Alpha Strike.
I find it's easiest. I mean, there are a couple of tips and tricks you can do in building brawler lists, which is mostly focusing on short and medium range, especially in Alpha Strike, because frankly, given the overall map size of most tables, you're not using a lot of long range damage, right? It's just not terribly common.
No, but you do I at least have problems with brawling list where the enemy can outrange me, the enemy can outmaneuver me. A lot of my stuff is probably slower. I'd say 10, 12 inches is the average or the exception to the speed rule.
Without getting extremely expensive, you're going to see those on the slower end of movement. You might see a couple of 14-inch movements or, you're not going to see a lot of lights in that list generally.
Yeah. But the good thing with a good brawling list is you don't have any anchor pieces or units that are really the centerpiece of your force. You can lose mechs, by the handful, and you're just losing units. You're not losing your entire left flank, essentially. But do we want to move on to the next one?
What's the next one?
Well, I figured the counter, or I don't want to say the counter, the other side of the coin to the brawler list, which is the sniper list. So
you don't see a lot of these in Alpha Strike. Like I mentioned before, just given map size, you don't see a ton of sniper lists. But if the enemy is trying to get in close range to apply damage directly to you, you can pick them apart as they approach you, which should soften them up a little bit for your other guys if you have a sniper heavy list.
Yeah. But I think I agree with you because if you've got a 4-foot map, but your dasher goes 30 and is carrying battle armor, you're going to get into range real fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I've tried a lot of sniping lists and it's fun. Like it gives you, if you're playing actual like full weapon range, like I don't want to say the range that Alpha Strike is meant to be played at, but if you're playing with the maximum possible where your slow mechs need to actually sprint to get into combat on turn 2 or turn 3, then sniping lists are good and fun. Like you get to use that long range band and it pays for itself, because normally you're not like jumping because there's no return fire. Like you are outranging anything that can hurt you. So you can take good shots, you can get good low skills and just plink away. And there are times where all it takes is one dice and you'll kill a mech. Like it's pure luck, but that can really screw someone up, just getting an extra turn of fire before they do.
I think one of my other issues with sniper lists in Alpha Strike specifically is, and I don't want to make this a classic versus Alpha Strike thing. Like I said, I've mostly got classic to fall back on. An AC2, an ERPPC, a Gauss rifle. In classic, if you're taking a sniper list, you can be at medium range and the other mechs on the other team are not in range at all. But in Alpha Strike, everything has the same range brackets. So I think that makes sniping less viable, because yeah, you might get an extra shot, but it could be at 10s or 11s or even 12s. So instead of, 8s or 9s like you would in classic, I would like to see a larger Alpha Strike maps and see how sniping lists do on that. I bet that would be much more entertaining.
Yeah, we've ran a couple of campaign games at the shop, and we play on 4x8s for some of those missions, and that's where long range damage really comes into play there. So in a lot of competitive settings, or if you're playing on a 4x4 table, less helpful.
Yeah, but I really do like, because that's one of the, if you're building a fully majority sniping long range damage bracket list, you can lower your skills and it pays off, I'd say, even more at long range than it does at short range. Because at long range, I don't want to say it's multiplicative, but every time you hit them that they don't hit you, it's I don't want to say free real estate either, but that's really what it is. Like, you are hurting them and they can't hurt you. And as many turns as you can get doing that, by the time they do get in range, they might be half as much as you, on a good day.
Josh said free real estate. Everyone take a shot.
Ugh. I can't help it. I just need a car roof and slap it.
All right. So how about the really, really sniper list? Like artillery.
Ugh.
We don't talk about artillery.
Yeah, but people take it.
Yeah.
They do. And thankfully, most competitive formats now either ban artillery entirely or they severely limit how much you can take. Artillery rules, as we've talked to, the rule writers, it needs a little bit of a rework, especially with tag. And in general, fighting against artillery lists is tough because you are going to receive sustained punishment turn after turn. Building artillery lists, you need a couple of artillery lobbers as much as your event allows for, and a couple of tagging units to help get those target numbers down. And if you're fighting an artillery list, you've got two options. One is kill the taggers and hide from them, which only works some of the time, or bum rush the artillery lobbers and try to kill them. But normally those are hidden in the back, and that's a feat in and of itself.
But you're telling me there is a way.
It's doable. It's just not always a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there is something to be said for that. I mean, this game is supposed to be fun. Artillery certainly has a place, and I don't want to be that guy, but I am, and I always will be. Narrative games, artillery is a fantastic tool to be able to use to tell a story and create tension. I'm just not sure how much fun it is in a tournament setting that's supposed to be balanced and or fair.
Yeah, I mean, even in a pickup Alpha Strike game, it's like if you're bringing in artillery, which I've played against, it's like, okay, I can't death ball, I can't group all of my units together and have this cool charge up the middle of the table where they all shoot as they all get blown apart, and the last leader guy like breaks out and crosses the finish line. It's like, no, it's just, all right, they all take 2, 3, 1 damage every turn. They all get a critical chance if they roll well. It invalidates light little units, which I think is, I don't want to say the biggest issue, but a single artillery just, oh, you brought infantry? Well, they're wiped out. Oh, you brought anything that has 2 health or lower? It's wiped out. It's like, it's the rock that just crushes scissors and breaks through paper, because it's, I don't want to say non-interactive, but it
sounds like it's really good at taking out other lists that have tons and tons and tons of super low point units.
Yeah.
But you're saying that it might be too powerful, like too devastating, where it's oppressive. It does better against even more than just that.
No, it is. It is oppressive. And what artillery is artillery is the hard counter to high TMM units and a lot of battle armor, right? So if you're going to hide and clump your guys behind cover, artillery is great for, rooting out ticks that are hiding behind there, right? If you have a whole bunch of dashers that are running across the map that are on TMM4 or, ion sparrows that are TMM5, artillery is the hard counter to those. And, there's been a lot of talk about game modes that ban artillery entirely. You see a whole meta shift where you have effectively tons of fast units, which we'll talk about that list type a little later, but artillery is a hard counter to that. I think tangentially adjacent to artillery, similar but different, are indirect fire lists, which is a different tact, right? You're looking at...
It's the other half of the artillery coin. Like, you can either use the area of effect template, or you can just use weight of dice artillery.
Yeah. And you get LRM carriers and archers and a lot of these, almost any unit in Alpha Strike that has, an LRM 10 pack is going to give you IF1.
I have fallen to this archetype before playing Alpha Strike for sure. A couple LRM carriers hidden behind some hills. They are strong.
Yeah, I mean, they pose similar problems to artillery lists where they hide them in the back. You have to go dig them out.
Yeah, I mean, we did just review, was it Brad Wiseman's list, where every single unit had IF1 or 2. And like, the problem with that is it's a good tactic, but you, A, both pay for it, and C, you don't normally do a lot of damage. So you're really trying to just bury them in that turn 1 or turn 2 and just try to stay alive, because there's only a few units that just throw out the LRMs.
For indirect fire, though, do you need a specific type of ability to call in that? So, like, if you've got a spotter and you take that spotter out, and then you run around and start shooting at the LRM carriers, can they spot for the other LRM carriers?
Yes, with the penalty to fire, just like in Classic. They also can just direct fire LRMs, so it's
Is there minimum range in Alpha Strike?
There's not minimum range, but they do get a damage debuff at short range, so it does take that into account. Like, LRMs do less damage on the if you only have an LRM, like an LRM carrier, it does less damage at short than medium.
But also, what I'm assuming is that if you have an indirect fire list, you're not on the map taking objectives. You are static. You are hiding. You've got a spotter who's trying to get in position. But if the spotter gets deleted, then who's there to take objectives? And if the spotter's not out there, then nobody's there to spot you, so you can take the objectives for free. So I'm not seeing that as a tournament problem.
No, I mean, those lists, they are annoying to fight, but unless they have like some other, I don't want to say like a brawler component in the front, so like play the defensive line to make sure you don't just run amok through their indirect fire rear line. But I have fought a major indirect fire list, and it's more just annoying that they only need one unit to see something, and the missiles go straight up and they come straight down. Cover doesn't line of sight blocking terrain doesn't affect it. So it's a good counter. It does generate a higher, to hit number for them, but normally they have tweaked their list where every single unit, like I've even thought about running like 5 Gorgon Protomechs with IF1. It's like, cool, that's 5 dice. They all sit still, so they get an extra, gunnery bonus. And then it's like, okay, I just need to hit with like 3 of these to be worth a regular mech shooting at you. You can't hide. So yeah, they do struggle at holding objectives, which is, like we always say, it's why you need objectives in Battletech, because if it's just kill versus kill, then there is going to be much more of that rock, paper, scissors. And unless you're bringing the right one for that day, it's not going to feel good.
IF lists are generally not, they're more annoying than dangerous unless you fully dedicate, unless you had some sort of brawly component in the front. The way you can magnify, amplify, and multiply your IF damage is if we shift over to a little bit more complicated, the NARC lists, right? There's S-NARC, there's regular NARC. If you have a couple of beefy units, like we talked about with Brad's list, if you can get some beefy units with S-NARC on there, all of a sudden any unit that has IF, LRM, SRM, those mechs do an extra damage at those ranges when they shoot. So you can really increase the effectiveness of an IF list by shifting over to a NARC list for that extra damage. And you also add a brawly element to your list when you do that as well.
Is the S in S-NARCs for super NARC?
If only. It's unfortunately standard NARC.
Oh.
To differentiate between the iNARC, the Comstar / Word of Plague's iNARC.
So it's S-NARC and iNARC?
Snark. Don't forget the less mentioned, but just as effective, C-NARC. The compact NARC, only 6 inches. But that you'll see that in like battle armor, which is fun because then you have like a super cheap NARC delivery system that just needs to hit once.
Nice.
So,
yeah, because unlike in Classic, in Alpha Strike, once you get narked, that's it. You can't take it off. You're stuck with the pod forever.
True, but a single ECM just gets rid of it, which is, like with all things, that's another rock to the paper of the special abilities part of Alpha Strike, I should say. So, yeah. NARC is fun. I have always had the problem of when you want to hit with the NARC, you won't hit with the NARC because you only get one chance per NARC you have. So you're either taking half your units are NARC and the other half are either LRM or SRM carriers. You're gambling. Like even a skill 2 NARC thing will struggle to land every single one of its NARCs every time. And like we also said in the list review section, once you NARC something, if you only NARC like one thing a turn, the enemy knows you're going to shoot that. Because if they shoot something else, the NARC didn't pay for itself. Like if they had to sacrifice a mech to apply a NARC to a unit, well, they'll just hide it behind a building. They will make it not worth to shoot that unit if they're a good player. So you don't even need ECM. The enemy is
all
already
good
controlled.
players, Josh.
They're all good mechs, Bront.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of ECM, what's next?
Oh, man. Well, this will go to my favorite one, which is the C3 list of Alpha Strike, which really uses the same tactics as the C3 list for Classic. It's just, is it different? Is there any different? I mean,
there is different. Like in Classic, you do not need line of sight for your C3 to work. In Alpha Strike, you absolutely do. So if you get a building between you and the closest unit, then the rest of their team doesn't get that short range bonus.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. But I like C3. My issues always with taking C3 is the mechs I want to take don't have C3 because they're not designed. As long
as the other team has any amount of ECM, assuming that optional ECCM rules aren't in effect, then it's kind of broken that way too.
Yeah. ECM is easily countered, or it's, I don't want to say not effective, because I have played against C3 and I've just decided, okay, cool, I'm just going to brawl you. I'm going to get within 6 inches and make neither of our range bonuses matter. And at that point, it's literally just who can roll better.
Yeah, but at that point, you're down how many percent BD?
Yeah, normally like 30, maybe 40%. But who's counting? Yeah, but I will say those lists are fun if you can do them right, but they are brain heavy because you are having to move it goes less from BattleTech and more into hyper chess. Like you have to move, you have to pre-measure, you have to make sure everything is like trigonometried correctly so you can get your C3 bonus put to the back. Well, thankfully, most times you're only going to have 4 mechs or units connected to C3. If they're stacking more and they've got like their whole list, they probably are paying a slight premium on the C3 tax. So would it be better to up their skills instead? Maybe.
Yeah, the thing to remember here is that in Alpha Strike, C3 costs are baked into the PV cost. You don't have to do a multiplier like you do in Classic. So if you take some C3 units or a couple or even a stack of 4, you're paying for that up front. So try to avoid C3 units if you're not going to be using them, right? If you're not using C3.
ECM range in Alpha Strike? Like
12.
12. So a 12 diameter or radius?
Oh no, I've messed everyone's brains up about
trigonometry comment.
Yeah. The Bloodhound range probe from earlier.
Oh, I don't have the book open in front of me, but I believe it's 12-inch radius from the mech. Yeah. 12 inches out from the mech.
All right. So like a 24-inch, a 2-foot circle on the map that C3 doesn't work in.
Yeah.
And in or through.
Yeah. Or through. Yeah. You can block line of sight between 2 C3 units, and that cuts it off as well. So
just bring your 2-foot wide cylinder and you put it over the map.
Middle of the map.
It's like, can you see through it? Nope.
If you park an ECM unit in the middle of the map, a lot of C3 units suffer. Yeah. So,
but I do love running a C3 list. Like when it works, nothing feels better than perfectly lining up shots, getting long range at short range brackets. The other thought is you have to really take units that are worth it. You have to take units that do good long range damage. If they're going to sit at long range, you have to take good medium range units that would probably be in medium range already. So then it makes it even more pressure to take something that can get into short range very fast and then stay there. And then kind of to work it back from the narc lists. That normally means you're moving that last spotting unit last. So you're going to not lose the movement war, but you're going to be on the back foot. And especially if you lose initiative and you really want to kill one specific thing. So you can't guarantee that you will use C3 benefits every turn.
No, especially on terrain heavy maps, right? If you need to get everything to line up to get the line of sight properly, C3 benefits on more open maps because there's less stuff in the way. So just a hazard of using the system.
You thought it was free? Think again, Blakest. Yeah. I mean, to comment on that, there's not a lot of difference between the regular C3, the C3i, the C3 boosted.
Right. Just bunch it all up together.
Yeah. It's just which ECM hurts you the most.
Yeah.
And what availability you have per faction. Well, let's move on to the next one, which for some reason I feel like we'll be talking about in the next couple weeks. And that is
very likely
the Heatmongers. And this is
Are
something.
these the ones that increase? So like battle armor with heat or things with plasma rifles with heat damage. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct. Flamers, plasma.
So a max, if I'm correct, in Alpha Strike, the max you can get from external is 2 extra heat
per
turn, no matter what.
2 per turn. Correct.
Per turn.
And heat lists are good if you're playing over an extended period of time because you need the heat to build up to shut stuff down.
That's where I was going with that. Is that I feel like these are a list that gets stronger the longer the game goes on. And if you're only going for 3 or 4 turns, it's not going to be as important. But once you get into the 6, 7, 8 turns, then that's when everything is just shut down, and then you just go in there and wreak havoc.
Yeah, absolutely. The only time that heat lists are phenomenal in short games is when your opponent has brought a lot of vehicles and battle armor. Because in Alpha Strike, heat damage is simply converted into straight damage against vehicles and infantry. So if you're going to do
to critical rolls on vehicles,
nope, it's just straight additional damage.
Straight damage.
So if I would normally do 2-2-1 and I've got 2 heat, I all of a sudden do 4-4-3 against vehicles.
Nice.
Right. And battle armor too, unless you have something like salamanders that are heat resistant.
Don't forget Stormbirds, our favorite fire-resistant battle armor, or
the
the Southern Assault 4 Greyhound special, which has fire-resistant armor.
It does. Now, I will say, the Stormbirds are only the Snow Raven variant are heat resistant.
Correct.
The Jade Falcon ones jump.
Oh.
Yeah, but everyone gets the Greyhound this year.
I'm excited. I want to see how many get fielded. I think there are going to be a couple.
I think there will be a couple. But yeah, so like I said, I like heat lists. Like they are good at getting bonuses out of low damage units. Like normally if you do heat, you do less damage. So there's something that, okay, your heat producing thing may not be the biggest target of the field. But if that's like the only one you have and you overheat someone's mech, that they might just focus it down. Like they might get really angry. It's like, cool, I don't want to deal with that anymore. So it's both a good offensive role and, hey, you should spend a lot more resources to kill the heat of shooting mechs. So
you also see a lot of heat because a lot of things in later eras have heat. Mm-hmm. So you can, heat lists are nice because you don't have to fully dedicate. You can splash 2 to 3 units in a brawling list that have heat. You can have a little bit here, a little bit there. You can even put some heat in C3 lists, right? I mean, heat is kind of ubiquitous. You can kind of add it in later eras almost anywhere. So it's not like you have to go fully dedicated heat lists. If you do, people generally don't like that because they like playing the game.
I can see how this would cause some NPE for sure.
Oh, yeah.
If you do pure heat all the time. But I mean, I know people at Last Southern Assault that ran pure heat lists, and everyone had a good time playing them too. It really depends on how you use it.
I'd normally rank heat, if you're like fully in onto the heat archetype, you will do well, but you won't do great because you just won't do enough damage. And there are some people that if you don't heat them or quote hit them with the heat, they will just jump behind you and it's over faster because you just can't damage them down, or they don't care. Like they're going to alternate fire every other turn. So you trying to limit their fire isn't going to work. What it does do is definitely stop someone from just overheating themselves, like overloading to do getting more damage out of their mech than what they normally would do.
Yeah, it really will prevent people from OVing, and it doesn't happen often, but occasionally, if you bring a TSM unit against a heat list and your opponent's not paying attention, they'll shoot you with heat, and then your TSM activates, and you trick them into giving you heat to power your mechs, which is always a good time. It's like, surprise, that was my plan all along.
Yeah, it's a weird counter, but the counter to heat is melee, shockingly, because you don't need, just like in Classic, you don't need heat, or heat does not affect melee attacks or physical attacks.
Right.
So death from aboves, charges, regular standard melee, and melee with the melee keyword. It doesn't matter. The problem is now is that person has to really gamble on that one shot. Like you get one dice roll for melee and multiple for shooting. So
yeah, the other thing is if you have higher skilled units, the penalties to being hot don't necessarily hurt as much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, if I'm skill 4 shooting at medium range, that's 6, your TMM is 2, that's 8, and I've got a whole bunch of heat. Now I'm in those, 9s, 10s, 11s to hits. But if my skill is 2, I'm still in the 8s, and that's manageable.
Yeah. All right. How about the counter to the artillery list? Oh, wait.
It's not a counter. It's just...
No, it's the opposite.
It's the opposite. Oh, you don't want... or you want to shoot lots of little things and kill them all at once? Well, too bad. I've lots of little things and you can't kill me at once. So
I would say that a horde list is a good counter to a sniper list because you tend to have fewer mechs shooting from long range with a lot of damage, and you can only kill one per turn per other unit, so you're going to still have a lot left over.
Yeah, I love
if you go in there with 12 units and you lose 25% of your force on turn 1, you still have a bunch of units, like 8 units to take points.
Yeah. I love a horde list, and I don't even go full horde, but normally things like proto-mechs, infantry spam, little vehicles, hovercraft, like those feel great in a horde list just because I have so much board control. There's nowhere my opponent can be that I don't have eyes on them or can shoot them or just like do what I want. Like, okay, cool. There's 3 guys on an objective. You can kill 2 of them, but I'm still going to hold the point.
Yep. And that's really where horde lists excel, is any sort of point capture the flag, anything like that. But if you're stuck in a kill mission or something like that, you just generally don't have you have a lot of hit points, but they're spread out so far that you can't either do a lot of damage or it doesn't take much to kill specific units.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always what they struggle at, is because they're normally like 1 or 2 damage because they can't pay for the large damage that a mech was. Like, every unit has a base unit cost, and then you get damage on top of that. If you're not paying for damage, then you're just weighted towards bodies, and there's only so many killbots you can throw at them before they just kill all the killbots.
Are you allowed to split damage in Alpha Strike? So if you've got like 3 2.2 armor things, and you've got, your Timberwolf that does 8, you can split it up and try and kill 3 or 4 of them in one turn.
Yes, but you have to declare prior to beginning to roll. You can't roll 1 damage, 2 damage, and kill it. Yeah, you got to declare all your attacks ahead of time.
But no, like I said, I like the horde list. They let me put more models on the table, and that makes me happy. I know, like Pirate on the Coolant Pod podcast, I think he took the maximum number of units to NashCon this year and literally had a full line of units from one edge to the other and just walk forward. And they were like, hey, cool, we're going to lower the max unit count next year. Yeah.
That's wild. Can you imagine that, sitting there waiting for your opponent to deploy and just keeps putting models on the board?
So you're gonna get your two turns in your 2 hours, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Judge, maybe. I need a chess clock and a TO over here.
Who brought this clown car of a Feldir case?
Speaking of clown cars,
what do we want to call it? I want to call these taxi list.
I think taxi list makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a list that has a lot of light, fast movers and a equally large amount of battle armor that they just drop off on your front porch and ruin your day.
Yeah. And we definitely put this close to the horde list because you go from, say, maybe 5 units to 10 units or 6 to 12. Like, if you are taking an Omni-Mech or something with transporting capabilities, well, that means it can hold another unit, which next turn adds on to their initiative and activation count, and it's just really rough to deal with that.
I remember playing in Southern Assault 2. I played Dustin, and he had the Zon transport and a couple other things, and he moved his guys up to the middle of the map, and all of a sudden there were a whole bunch of conventional infantry all over the middle of the map, and I didn't know what happened, and I was it was not a good time.
So this is kind of like another horde list for sure. Yeah, I see your point.
A taxi list is like a subsequent. It's like a subset of horde list. It's just, rather than having a lot of cheap units, you have a lot of units that ride on other units. And they kind of explode on stuff.
I remember back in the olden days, you could mount your infantry, drive across the map, and unmount it all in one turn. And I know that has been changed, and I think that's for the better.
That improved the feel of the game entirely, because back then it was, if you have an Omni-Mech, you need to take battle armor because it's free damage that you add on. Like, you take the most damaging battle armor, they don't need any movement capabilities, and you just drop them as soon as you get where you need. They shoot, and the next turn you just pick them up and go. And every other turn you would drop them and shoot them. And that's just, it really invalidated, like, elementals were worthless at that time because they didn't do enough damage, because they paid for movement, and
things are better now.
I mean, they're better, but it's still very easy to take battle armor and infantry and shove a whole lot in a cheap, these brand new plastic Maxims. Pretty sure they have like IT-12 if you take the right variant, but don't quote me on that, folks. I don't know my Maxims that well. The other 2 co-hosts are the Maxim experts. But yeah, so like, you can cram a whole lot of cheap infantry that I've taken infantry at skill 5. They don't need to hit every time. They just clog up the board, roll enough dice, and have to get lucky once or twice. And it's
no wonder you've got like artillery shell shock, because artillery hits that and takes out all 11 of your units in one go. Because infantry, if they're inside of a vehicle, all die, like regular infantry, conventional.
Correct.
But battle armor come out, like they pop out.
Battle armor on omnis drop off. If battle armor are interior to a vehicle, if you put elementals inside of a Maxim and the Maxim explodes, if they're inside, they would die.
While I will say artillery is the counter to the infantry in the horde list, it's like infantry will never be as effective at killing as artillery is at killing them, which is one of those, like, one of these is much more of a rock than the other one.
Heat also does pretty well against infantry lists, right? Because heat's going to do that extra damage. You really have to adopt the, pack mentality of you will lose a significant portion of the pack, but the pack will survive because you just have so many, right?
He sent waves and waves of zone men into the grinder.
That's it.
But he always achieves objectives. Now, one thing we didn't mention is not just shooting. A lot of people forget about the anti-mech attack skill, which is a free damage and free crit if you can do damage. So a low skill, low damage battle armor that still does 1 only needs a +1. So like a skill 2 12 BV power armor, battle armor, it can still really screw something up. It just has to get there. So you're normally looking at cheap taxis and cheap clowns. I still like them. I like the little guys. I feel like that's where Alpha Strike really improves the things that just wouldn't be effective in Classic, to our detriment sometimes, but we still like them.
Yeah. Speed and number of units seems to win a lot of games in Alpha Strike. You have to be able to get to your objectives, and you have to have enough units to at least survive the first couple turns of the game. And if you can do that, and then I think you're ahead of the curve.
Are there any other lists, like main archetypes that we see around the tables? I feel like this covers the majority, and other ones are like combinations of or like subsets.
Yeah, I think this is pretty comprehensive. I mean, I'm sure we're missing something because someone may classify something a little bit differently, but I think this is the general ballpark of what you're going to see.
What do you normally gravitate towards, Steve?
I like brawlers. I'm not a terribly, I don't want to say like a high brain power player. I do the same tactics in Classic. I want something that's real simple. I don't want a lot of fancy tech. I want to go forward, shoot stuff, and make them fall down.
But you're a fast brawler. Like you want to get there in turn 1, turn 2. You do not like you can't stand 8-inch movers.
Oh God, no. 8s, 4s, 6s. No. Clan brawling is where I like to be. I like those 10-inch movers. Yeah, well, look.
24-inch brawling, boys.
Yeah, look, we just all run up and get in your face. That's it. No, that's my thing. I like it. I do like playing narc lists. I've run a couple in campaign days as the, op 4, and it's really fun watching your players begin to panic when they start seeing all sorts of narc beacons show up on their stuff because they're trying to keep their pilots alive and they're trying to back up and save units.
Get it off me, man. Get it off me.
I've had someone pull an almost fresh guillotine off the map because it got narked on turn 1 and they started to like freak out. So that was
I don't want to lose it.
That's it. It was their most expensive mech in their list. And like, I can't afford to repair this. So off it went.
Gosh.
But I also like having a little bit of heat. I think heat's a really good Swiss Army knife to splash into any list. So I dabble a little bit, but mostly brawling, maybe a little bit of heat here and there.
Yeah. I mean, that's your anti-tank, anti-infantry, anti-super slow, no TMM, super ultra mega boss.
All right, then what's your favorite type of archetype to play in?
To play, I do like the brawler. I do like some heat, but not a lot of heat. But I think if I'm playing to win, it's the taxi / horde. I think in Alpha Strike, the real way to win objective-based Alpha Strike is to have more units on the map and have them be able to get across the map as fast as possible. Not necessarily be able to take a lot of damage, but just be able to overwhelm the points with, it's who has the most units within 2 inches of a point. Well, that's me. Maybe I can only do it for 3 turns, but in tournament play, that's really all you need. If you can get a good lead in 3 turns and the game doesn't last much more than that, then they can't catch up in the last turn or 2 that they might have left. That's my opinion.
No. I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. When I've seen you play those lists, I'm like, Denim is good at this in Classic, and now he just has more, pawns and knights and stuff on the table.
Tactics are tactics.
Yeah.
So. Well, how about you, Josh? Tell us yours.
I don't know.
It's your turn.
I've ran most of these. Like, I enjoy building the archetypes and taking them out. My go-to is the Brawler because it's always good. You're never going to not have fun chucking buckets of dice, but I prefer a slower, more paced Brawler. I don't like to get up there turn 1 and shoot people in the back and try to win through less honorable means. But I mean, the sniper lists are fun because you normally, like I said, you get a couple turns to just shoot them and they can't shoot back, and they just have to decide, do I wait it out or do I bum rush? But I'd say I like Horde, but not the outweigh them in numbers. I just like to take the little guys that I don't get to take in Classic. Like, I do take Proto-Mechs, but I do get to take power armor and really weird battle armor. So, but I don't want to rush them up. I want to hold the line and more traditional combined armors forces, like cheap tanks, maybe a VTOL, maybe, and then a couple battle mechs just backing that up. So as you're shooting the battle armor, or as you're shooting the battle mechs, the little guys around are doing the objectives and taking pot shots at things when they see them. Those are my most memorable things, is a Proto-Mech getting a critical hit on a Turkina, a skill 2 Turkina, and hitting the engine turn 1. It's nothing is more memorable than, David versus Goliath. So
it feels good when that happens.
It feels real good.
Not
for
to
me.
you.
Okay. Well, I think that's good for the vocabulary section of this. So now when we refer to one of these, at least everyone knows what we are thinking of when we say it. Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah, one day we'll actually use the actual Alpha Strike, Lance designations and Striker Lance, Battle Lance, and all that. But until
someday.
Then. Well, any more thoughts on the Alpha Strike section of the episode?
I'm
good.
All right. Well, you'll see us next time when we talk about what we are taking to Southern Assault, our plans for the list, what we'll do, and our expectations and predictions for that. So until then, Mechwarriors, unless anyone else want to send us home. All right, Mechwarriors, remember to donate to the charity Crabback game between our own Steve and the MRC's John / Lord Carbon. We are going to be reading out all the donors in our Southern Assault recap game next episode. Another big thank you to all of our listeners and patrons that help support the show. And remember, until next time, that salvage isn't going to make itself.